And now it's time for Who's Views with JT and the Whotastic panel.
Hello, welcome back to Who's Views, and here we are for, did you love the title of that show, everybody, by the way? It's a massive title there, isn't it? Because this is, yes, part of our series.
Can we have that on a t-shirt?
No, you can't. It's done by the letter. Yeah, this is the third part in our series, marking the 20th anniversary of Reboot Who. The actual anniversary for the reboot is, of course, next week. And here we are discussing the highs and lows of 20 years of Reboot Who. But is it time to call it a day? I'm sure this is going to be a great chat. As you can see, I'm joined by Miles, Emilio, Kirsty, Lady of the Chat, and Paul. Good to see you all, everybody. What are you holding there, Paul?
This is interesting. As a classic fan, I used to love the program guide.
Oh, I love
that.
They
brought out a new Who version unofficially, which
What?
is rather good. And it's done in the same format as the original, the one that goes up to Survival, from Unearthly Child to Survival. And
Yeah.
it goes up to, I think, Time of the Doctor, as far as I remember. So it's out of date now, but that's fine. Up to Capaldi is fine for me. That's okay. It's a yeah.
And what did you have there in your grubby little protuberances, Kirsty? Look, Kirsty's got a little friend there. It's a little Matt Smith. Bless her. She doesn't go anywhere without it, actually, everybody. Isn't that great? It's good to know. Well, listen, I don't know if you guys have seen this. I don't know if you in the chat have seen it, but welcome to Who's Views. Nice to see you all, everybody. You can start telling us about your highs, lows, and whether you think it's time to call it a day. You can talk about anything you want when it comes to Reboot Who on this show tonight. That's the thing about it. But have you seen yesterday, the Radio Times finally caught up to where we are at Who's Views, and they decided to mark 20 years of Reboot Who as well. Yes, with the now tired and trusted formula of putting one cover out with each of the alleged Time Lords incarnations on it, just to try and get you some extra money. There it is, 6 of them. Don't know when
I wonder if they'll sell. I wonder.
I can't. Can you guys see them selling here? I can't see these selling like the original ones did. Can you?
No, not really.
No.
They had the Radio Times cover almost every week during New Who, haven't they? Let's be honest.
Close.
In Classic Who, you got them occasionally, but in New Who, every other episode had a cover. It was ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah, and as we all know, it's not as if the British public are really buying it now as well, you know, and Radio Times is expensive. It's interesting, though, that none of the other TV Choice magazines, of course, have done that because they're not reviewing it because it's not on the tally. They're going to wait for the next few weeks, obviously. But Domgo is saying, I suspect there'll be lots of Fruity and Jodie left.
I wonder why.
And Garbage is saying to us, I would buy 3 of them. The other 3, no thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, Martin. Martin McNeef is with us. Nice to see you, Martin. Eccleston's run is the high point for me. I like all of his episodes. Yeah, and the fact that he only did 1 series helps as well, doesn't it? Really, because he didn't get a chance to mess him around with some stupidity, like his successors got. Do you know what I mean?
Well, he had his moments, didn't he? Let's be honest. Mainly RTD's episodes, to be fair. But yeah.
Edward's already telling us here. Hi, it's Christopher Eccleston. Lows, David Tennant. Not again. Oh, it's good to see you all in the chat, everybody. So thank you. Sadeko, hi. Highs for me would be series 1, 4, 5, 7, and 10. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's great. I had to remember which ones were which there for a second. And Marcus Barry, good to see you. Good evening, everyone. I'm looking forward to the discussion. So am I. And it's good to see you all coming to join us for this as well. Because yes, we are looking at all this. Now, to lead us into our big discussion tonight, everybody, we have been running, the poll closed just as we were coming on air there. But for the last week, we've been running a poll on our what was the community tab. It's now called posts here on the channel. It was a very, very simple question. Basically, well, do you think it's time to call it a day? Very simple. Yes and no. Do you want the result?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited because I actually have it here for you. Here it is here. Out of 146 votes, yes, it's time to call it a day. 83%. No, 17%.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So out of 146 Who viewers, thank you very much for taking the time to take part. Out of 146, 83% said yes, it's time to call it a day. Not good news then for the three people that have been showrunning this thing over the last 20 years in the form of RTD, Moffat and Chibnall, of course, and now again with Chibnall, with RTD again, but they were the three who have ruled the show for 20 years. So, are we surprised by the results, everybody, for the poll?
Not at all. No, not one bit. No.
Nope.
No.
I'm actually surprised it got 17%. I thought it'd been much lower, but there you go.
What do you think in the chat as well? We had some fantastic comments, by the way, but I'm saving them for another show, so you'll have to come back and join me. Marie UK GB, nice to see you. Lowe's David Tennant, he lost his mind at some point. And Bill's pointing out that all those Radio Times, if you got them all 6 of them, would cost you £30. £30, especially as they'd only want 4 of them. That's a lot of money, isn't it, for the Radio Times these days?
Yeah.
Julianne, Radio Times in mercenary move, shock, horror.
Yeah.
And hello, Walter. Hi for me was Day of the Doctor. Oh, really? Tied everything up to then together. Best multi-doctor story ever. I am going to respectfully, Walter, agree to disagree with you there. It does not top the 5 Doctors, or the 3 actually, and sets up a major storyline searching for Gallifrey, and then they squandered it. That's why it doesn't work. I don't like Day of the Doctor. I'm going to be very honest with you. For me, that's one of the low points because it didn't celebrate 50 years of Doctor Who. It just celebrated the reboot Who. That's all.
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
All right, guys, who's going to kick us off then with some chat about what your highs, what your lows? Who's going to kick us off then?
Well, how do you want to do this? Do you want to be very fan-like and do it in order of seasons because we're all a bit anal?
No, just go wherever you like.
Okay.
We've only got 2 weeks, so no, don't do it like that. Throw it in where you want to. Give us a high, Paul, and then we'll see whether we go with that.
Well, I mean, certainly, I know we kind of touched on season 1 last time, time before last, rather. Season 1's got lots of highs in it. Dalek's a cracker, Father Day's a cracker, Empty Child Doctor Dances, and the final 2-parter. That's got some really good things in it. But Aliens of London and Long Game, stuff like that, not so good. So the first season is really good, quite strong, but there's a couple, mainly Russell's episodes are fairly crap in the first season for me. But so there's a lot of highs in the first season particularly. But season 2 is not bad either. The Cybermen coming back in season 2 was really good because I like the look of the Cybermen, hate the stomping. I love the alternate universe stuff and the genesis of the Cybermen, but unfortunately, Roger Lloyd Pack's Lumic character is awful. It's like Richard Briers in Paradise Towers for me, but the rest of it around it is superb, like that. So lots of good highs into 1 and 2 so far.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say for me, I would say season 1 to series 5 is the high point of basically new Who, and I would continue from where Paul was off on season 2. I do think come the middle of season 3, I think that's really when you hit it stride. If you think about the last 6 episodes of series 3, you got the Family of Blood, Human Nature, Blink, Utopia. All right, I like the sound of drums. I'm not a fan of the Laughter of the Time Lord, but I do think as a stretch that was really good in terms of consistently good stories. And then you get into season 4 with Donna, and I think that season is the most consistent season in terms of every episode was different. Every episode was, I would say, was good. There weren't any Love and Monsters or The Long Game or Aliens of London or kind of those kind of episodes. So I do think it was, it really hit its stride.
Can I interrupt you there 1 second, Emilio? I have found a new love for Love and Monsters. I'm going to be sent to Coventry, I know, by saying this. I hated it originally, but the music in it is brilliant, and there's some funny performances in it. But it's not really a Doctor Who episode. It's quite entertaining, but it's not really Doctor Who. But I've grown to actually become quite fond of it, but I hated it at the time. So I'm just saying that now.
That's one of those episodes I can't stand because of the sexual connotations.
Oh, the end bit's awful. That's really awful.
I can't stand any of that in this. That's what I don't. I mean, you'll all know, regular viewers will know, one of the things I can't stand about Reboot Who is all this sexual nonsense that's gone in it and has really gone overboard in the current one. Digby, thank you for your super chat. I can't believe the difference between 2005 and 2025. Doctor Who is like the monkey's paw for me. That's a great point, isn't it? I mean, two totally different shows, completely different shows. I mean, the crap that we watched last year is nothing compared to the Eccleston story. Eccleston's up here, that one last year, it's down there in the gutter.
Yeah.
Well, Space Babies makes Love and Monsters. It makes Love and Monsters look like compared to Space Babies, like Tales of Wen-Chiang, doesn't it? Let's be honest. You know.
No, not at all. Hey, listen, we've got John Keeley here saying, unfortunately, I've already called it a day after the disastrous Timeless Children. I'm sure the guys are going to be talking about that in this one. And Martin McNeef, one of the worst ones I remember was the Capaldi one where he's on the moon. Oh, that was bad. I don't remember that one. It was so bad, Martin. I don't remember it. It was that bad. Is it the one where the moon hatched?
Yeah, the ending's a bit naff, but it had some good moments. Capaldi was brilliant at it, I have to say.
I liked, in that case, was the spiders in that one?
The spiders were really lovely. Yeah, really scary. Yeah.
Sadeko saying, okay, lowest points, Love and Monsters. There, Paul. Last of the Time Lords, The River Song Arc, Missy and the Female Master, Orphan 55, Church on Ruby Road, and boom. I could carry on with that quite handy.
Yeah. Only one I would say out of that I disagree is the River Song arc.
Oh, I can't stand that. You'll have to come back to that in a sec, Kirsty, and tell us why you like that. Martin, The Impossible Planet and Satan Pit is the best Tennant story, in my opinion. We reviewed those last year, didn't we, as part of our Halloween?
They're cracking episodes, definitely. Yep.
Julianne, straight to the point here. Lows 2005 to 2025. She's really gone for it there. Thanks, Julianne.
Don't mince your words, Julie. Yeah.
I know, yeah. Smiley people, hello, smiley people. High point, I'm going to pick Family of Blood. I like the first season of Matt Smith. It was a great season, but it got messed up. Yeah, actually, once I discovered the classic, that became my obsession. Yes, well done. And Mudcrab saying, overall high point, the 11th hour. Moffat had enough time to actually work out his characters and what he was trying to do. It is a joy. I think that's probably one of the best of Moffat's, actually. Who else we got here as well? Nice to see you all, everybody. John Roberts, hello, John Roberts. I have all the new Who on DVD up to Capaldi's first series, but I never watch them. I always opt to watch classic Who. Snap, John. I don't know what it is. They're all behind me. I'm sure you can see them here, but I always go back to these shelves up here. And we've got Dalek Eye saying that Lazarus Project was a low point. And Paul Thomas PTA, thank you for your super chat. High points, The Doctor and Donna. Low points, RTD and Shooty. RTD wants blasting into space with Starmer. Where's Elon? Well, RTD's had a lot to say about Elon this week in a coveted sort of way. We're going to be talking about that at the weekend, so make sure you stay with us, everybody. Right, so Kirsty, River Song, come on then, tell us all about this. The judge is out here now, so come on, tell us.
Yeah, I quite liked it. I don't mind River Song. I thought it was annoying, but all that timey-wimey stuff and points in time, I quite liked it. I do love when a good man goes to war. That's probably why I'm a sucker for River Song, especially. Because I found out behind the scenes that none of the crew knew that this was going to get announced that she was the daughter of Amy and Rory. So when they do that scene, that's when the crew are finding out as well. So I thought that was even more special. But I do quite like it, and I think Alec Kingston is a great actress, and was a great addition to. It was good that she wasn't there all the time and she would dip in and out, and also the last episode of Amy and Rory. Can't remember what it's called, but with the angels in New York.
Angels Take Manhattan, is it called? Yeah.
And the acting and the story between Matt, Karen, Arthur, and Alex as well, I thought was a fantastic story. Out of New Who, especially those seasons, that's a highlight for me.
And what do you guys think about this whole thing with River Song?
Well, I liked her initially. I thought the one in the library, Silence in the Library, was really good. And then the first time she met Matt was quite good, but the Weeping Angels for the second time, that was quite good. And I liked, Matt was superb in Time with the Angels, definitely. I just thought she got overused. And I hated all the predicting that River Song would do. The Doctor will fall. It's his worst day ever. All that kind of nonsense. I hated all that. Awful, you know.
Toonami's saying to us, guys, the low point for me was Jodie era half-baked scripts. I'm currently doing post-production on The Last of Us season 2. Oh, well, hope that's all going well. This is from a game and gets 30 million viewers. It just shows good television is out there. I'm glad to hear that good television is out there, because I see absolutely no evidence of that much around. I have to say, I love All Creatures Great and Small. I'm enjoying the rebooted Bergerac. I am looking forward very much to seeing what the Foresight is like with Millie Gibson. I don't watch anything though, so I'm glad to hear that, Toonami. Thank you. Do you know that River Song thing though? For me, I think they should have just left it as an enigma, dead in the library, and that's it. Why do these people have to go back? Like, why did Moffat have to go back to her and bring her back constantly? I mean, can you imagine what it would have been like if she died in the library and we never knew?
Yeah.
I completely agree, JT. I was gonna just say that as well, in terms of I do think she worked as a kind of one-off. You never know what her actual relationship ends up being with the Doctor. But I do think I know they brought her back, I think, to help with Matt and Karen because they were so young. I know, especially in season 5, I remember Moffat saying it was to basically help them along because obviously they were very, very young at the time. So I think that was the first block of filming they did for season 5.
It was, yes, yeah.
They didn't need her because Matt hits the ground running immediately as a Doctor. He's superb. He
definitely didn't need it.
Yeah.
But I do think my problem with River Song is she doesn't feel like a real person. So in the Silence of the Library and that episode, she feels much more grounded. She's definitely way less. Well, she's a little bit flirty with the Doctor, but not to the same way that she is. She just doesn't feel. I just don't believe in her. I don't understand her character on an emotional level. I think she's a very superficial character. I just think it's who is this person to the Doctor, and that's literally who she is. She doesn't have. If you ask me what are her traits, what makes her an interesting character, I couldn't tell you. And we've had a lot of her on screen. So, yeah, I think Alex Kingston does a great job. I agree with Curtis. She's a great actress. But I do think that's just Moffat. He's great with the high concept ideas. But when it comes to real characters and making you believe in these characters and who they are and the emotion of it, I never really buy it.
I think River Song's the start of diminishing the Doctor's character. She's always bringing him down. I know they tried to get a kind of Romana Fourth Doctor kind of dynamic. Doesn't quite work. You know what I mean? No, but they keep denigrating the Doctor's character. Therefore, they make him weaker because all these people taking the mickey out of him. It doesn't really work.
Yeah. Cool. Again, it was all that. It was all that context of kissy lovey-dovey stuff, which I don't like in Doctor Who for me.
Yeah.
And had they just left her dead in the library and fans were left for the rest of time thinking, who was she? They could have come up with their own idea. But again, it went over the line for me. What happened in the Matt Smith era. Sadeko was saying to us here, I like River at first, but it was when they revealed her as Amy's daughter and had her in 1940s Germany. I've forgotten about that. That's when I began to find her insufferable. And Neville is saying the library one was a definite high point. It was clever and well written. Yeah, because they were still sort of taking it seriously at that point. But it's a good one, that one. It's quite spooky.
And beautifully shot as well. That library set, it's a real place, isn't it? Superb.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Paul Stenterford, the River Song story arc was just a blatant rip-off of The Time Traveller's Wife, showing that the modern creative team have no original ideas. And as we've said in headlines as well, Moffat eventually went on to actually produce one series of The Time Traveller's Wife for American television, and it was folded, it was axed after that one season.
Yeah.
But I actually do reckon he read that book and thought, I can do this with Doctor Who, and I've got that character from the library.
But he's trying to be too clever with it. That's the problem, and that's kind of Moffat's problem all over. He gets himself in knots in terms of storylines and stuff. It doesn't really work,
Yeah, I think that's probably why I'm pretty sure I'm going to be interested here for the rest of the panel, but why I do think those first 5 seasons are probably the strongest, because even in Matt's first season, RTD took the template of what Russell had done and just kind of tweaked it a bit. But once you get to season 6, you've got the Doctor dying, you've got River Song, it starts getting way too complicated. It doesn't become kind of monster of the week, kind of dies off a little bit. And a lot of people, I would say, from season 6 onwards, I think that is really the start of the decline. And it Doctor Who becoming too self-aware of itself, thinking showrunner thinking that they're too smart for their own good, and then, like I say, moving away from that kind of monster, like proper monster of a week format. Because what you got in your background there, JT, in terms of New Who, right? When you went to Woolworths and stuff, you'd have merchandise everywhere of all the new monsters, the Jadoon, the Slovene, like you think of that for a couple of years. You can maybe say the Silence a bit later on, but if you think about after that, we don't have any new monsters or iconic monsters, and that's because I think the Doctor Who became too high concept and too concerned about how great it is and look how clever we are, rather than actually just providing good story with good monsters and new monsters and being creative with new ideas. I think it just over time it just waned. I can't think of any monsters in the last 10 years that would be worthy of merchandising.
Well, it certainly hit character options, didn't it, from series 5 onwards, because of the lacquer monsters. Remember, they brought out the peg dolls as the action figures. That's when I thought, when I was buying them, I thought, this is really me scraping the bottom of a barrel now and buying a peg doll. I'm inclined to agree with you actually there, Emilio. I think that's some good points there. Alan Collins is saying Alex Kingston was terrific in ER as Dr. Elizabeth Corday. She wasn't she? She really was. She was very good in that. Very good. And John's saying to us, John Roberts, Alex Kingston was the wrong choice for Riverside Song. But even someone else playing her wouldn't have worked because she was a very poor character. It's very mixed. I think River is one of those characters you either love or don't love. And isn't that typical though, Miles, of the whole of the last 20 years? You either love or don't love it,
Yeah, it's like Marmite, isn't it? You're either really going to love it or you're really going to hate it. I don't know. It's hard because I struggle actually to look back on 20 years of Doctor Who. I actually forget most of the stuff that happened. And then, you guys mention something, I go, oh yeah, that happened. But I don't know.
That's why I've got this handy.
Yeah, you've got the right idea. You have got the right idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have got the right idea.
A lot of you in the chat this evening. Thank you for joining us. Keep typing in what you're like. The guys are here to chat about their highs and lows and whether or not we should be calling it a day at 20 years. A lot of you have already said, yes, it should be. You've already voted for us as well. We've got Graham here said, I only saw 2 Jodie stories and they were absolutely awful. I watched the Gatwa stuff and that was the same. Those 2 don't count to me. Well, no, they don't count to me.
No, the Gatwa stuff is worse. We've said that many times. It is much worse, which I couldn't believe it was. Much worse. Yeah.
The problem is with the Gatwa stuff, that the nonsense that was on last year, is that he hasn't written Doctor Who, has he?
No.
He's written some very flamboyant TQ cult soap opera.
Going back slightly to a topic, River Song. This was the start of when Moffat took over. Doctor Who became very, 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 very self-aware. The dialogue they write, it's funny, it's clever, but it's not real people speaking, so it's not real enough. It's a bit self-aware. We're on telly, we're doing a Doctor Who episode. It's very self-aware, which I don't like because it loses credibility a lot of the time because it's not believable. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It does make sense because there was an awful lot of winking to the camera.
Yeah.
I'm not talking
not as much as we got now. Not as much as looking straight down the barrel.
But I'm not talking literally that, because I'm talking about that whole. Oh, the audience know this, and so this. We've got Mudcrab here. River was good, but the show is called Doctor Who, not River's Big Day Out. She often bullied or overshadowed the Doctor, as do many of the female companions as such characters in the 20 years, I think. And Domgo is saying Capaldi was rubbish as well. I don't know why people like it. Okay.
Oh, I love Capaldi.
I love Capaldi as the Doctor, but I agree there's a mixed bag of episodes. Definitely, he looks superb. He looks superb.
If we're talking looks, to me, he's more in line with my Doctors 1 to 7. But do you think it's just because he did get a hell of a lot of crappy episodes, everyone?
Yeah,
There's partly that.
So.
Yeah, it's partly that, but also I think it's interesting. I don't know how you guys feel about this. I'm talking about the young'uns, JT here.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of growing up with a youngish doctor, most of the doctors are quite young. Even Eccleston, to a certain extent, is quite young. But when Capaldi came along, everyone complained about the fact, he's really old. I don't like an old doctor. He's not beautiful, not handsome anymore. Did you?
I hated all that.
Awful.
I will be brutally honest. I did have that thought originally. I will
stand in the corner, please.
Yeah. On the not too step, Miles. Okay,
because I was so used to David and then Matt, which Matt is he still the youngest doctor to play a doctor at this point? I think he is.
Matt, yes,
yeah.
And I think then to go from Matt to Capaldi was a big change.
Yeah.
But I washed my mouth out with soap because for me, I think he's the best so far.
Well, I actually went the other way with Matt. I went, oh my God, he's 12. He can't be the doctor. And then proved completely wrong because he was fantastic. He's my favourite. Then Capaldi.
I have to agree. When I saw, I'm going to be very honest with you all now, panel and whose viewers. When they did that show on Confidential, I think it was, where they revealed the name of the actor, my first thing was, thank God it's not a woman.
Yeah.
And now I had also seen Mr. Smith on that political thing he had done and left, I believe, to go to Doctor Who on. You know, that lovely, I can't remember what it was exactly, but there was this political thing on BBC Two, I think it was, or late night.
Political assistant, isn't he? I can't remember what it was called either, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It was a good one, though, and he was great in that. He was really good in that. And so when I got over that shock of, oh my God, he's younger than me, and that's not allowed.
Yeah.
He won me over by the end of his first episode. By the end of the 11th hour, I thought, that's the Doctor.
And you couldn't take your eyes off him. He's superb. His physicality, his delivery, brilliant. Absolutely superb.
Proper actor.
Yeah.
It's at the end when he goes, run. I was like,
yeah,
that's you.
Yeah.
You're in.
Yeah. It was that for me. It was a similar bit. It was the bit where they do that now traditional sort of flashback.
Yeah.
Of the previous faces. And he steps through. I'm the Doctor.
Yes.
And yes, you are, mate, because you've just nailed it for me. I like you. I enjoyed his performance all the way through his time, even though I think he was treated very, very badly.
Yeah.
That happens a lot in the show business these days, and in the new Reboot Who, people have been allegedly treated badly. But
I think it was interesting to have that contrast, as you said, the two extremes of a really, really young Doctor and having a much older Doctor. And I was actually really excited to have an older Doctor. I was hoping, because I did feel towards the end of Matt Smith's era, he just became very silly and just a bit too childish. So I'm quite happy to have a bit more of a grown-up Doctor. The issue that Capaldi had, and I think it feeds into what Paul was saying around kind of River Song kind of and kind of trumping the Doctor and all of that stuff, is that you had Clara Who, and then you had Clara slapping the Doctor, right? So demasculating the Doctor even further. So I think you just start to see the politics of woke ideology just starting to come in.
It was definitely I totally agree with you, Amelia. It was definitely coming in there. I noticed this as well, and London's always going to be mixed. It never was. We've got a couple of super chats to say thank you for here, guys. Mark Greaves, thank you so much for your super chat. Extreme Low Point, the constant messing with Gallifrey. Time Lord's dead, now alive, now dead, now Cyberlords, autocrat. I still can't get my head around that Cyberlord nonsense from our cyber shows. The other month, and Lex, thank you, Lex. Nice to see you with the super chat. The most fantastic scene in season 9. My face to remind me to hold to Mark. I'm the Doctor. Season 9, lots of comments coming through, guys, as well. Thank you for you two for those. John Mason saying, "What a misuse of Capaldi." And Julianne, Capaldi was hamstrung by Wonder Clara. She was really getting on my booby doos, I have to say, everybody, honestly.
Going back briefly to River Song, when Capaldi met River Song in the Husbands of River Song, I think that's the episode, isn't it? When she doesn't know he's the Doctor because he doesn't realise he has another cycle of lives, and he goes into the TARDIS for the first time, and that reaction to being bigger on the inside is hilarious, absolutely brilliant. It's a lovely moment.
I love that scene as well when she talks about that's the little cutesy girl in me is I love that scene when she's talking about all the stars and he's just like
Yeah. And they go, oh my God, look at the size of this place. It's brilliant. It's really funny. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got Digby Strawbridge saying the shame for me, i.e. Digby, was that Capaldi and Smith were good doctors served by poor stories. Moffat, like RTD, had an overblown sense of his own talent. I think that's a fair point. I'm going to agree with that, Digby. Don't know what you think of that, panel.
Well, I think Mr. Moffat allegedly has an ego. That I'll definitely say yes. Allegedly.
The stories just became far too fanciful, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, and Paul Stanford saying, talking of Doctor Who merchandising, my Vortex edition of the third Doctor and electroplated sonic screwdriver raid today. It's absolutely beautiful. Make sure you stay tuned, Paul. I know you do, because we've all got ours now. So we're just arranging a time when we'll get together and we will look at them all. So come and join us for the boys and their toys. It's on the way. There you go. Stay tuned. Keep watching. Lots of you in the chat here as well. Dark Hull, hello to you. Lowe's, was the Ninth Doctor dying? Paul Rose is actually saying to us, I think it should take a few years break, then come back with a whole new team and Doctor, but only if it's not at all woke. It certainly needs to, doesn't it? And we do know there's stuff going on. We don't know exactly what's going on, but BBC Studios are very keen to keep the thing alive. Let's put it that way. Let's see what
they certainly can't try on the back of this mess, can we? Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, oof. Domgo is saying, I hated all that sweetie crap and spoilers. It was so annoying. Yeah, it did great after a little while. Hello to Heretic OSJC. Hello, mate. Hi, all. Late as usual. Don't worry about it. It's fine. My 2-year-old is awake and she napped earlier, so I'm trying to get her to say, are you my mummy?
That's right. Brainwash your children. That's the way to go. Definitely.
And his partner is glaring at me as it freaks her out. Yes, well, I can understand why. Just please don't put one of those gas mask things on the Heretic, you are wicked. You've got a wicked sense of humor, but we like it. Good to see you all. Yeah, we will get everybody onto the blooming Jodie Whittaker era. You can guarantee it. I'm sure they're all wanted to talk about it. Highs was still not ginger, says Dark Hole. And Craig Dunlop saying Capaldi's stories were mostly unbelievable, and he wasn't helped by Clara Oswald, Bill, apparently a lesbian, but who knew?
Was she really? Was she really? I missed that.
But Moffat's showing
it's in here somewhere. I think it is somewhere. Yeah.
You know what? I also feel. Oh no! Don't Mudcrab. Please don't mention Danny Pink. I've been trying to get him. Yeah. I think it's a shame that we never got that missing series for Matt Smith. Now, what we all forget here is that when you look at what happened with Matt Smith, he had one series that was split into two to cover 2 years. That was 7, wasn't it? So we had part 1 of episode 7 1 year, and then part 2 of episode 7 the year after. And therefore, we were all robbed of a whole 13 episodes of Matt Smith, a full series. And I think that's the series where he would have really made his mark as the Doctor, because if you think about it, after series 7B, as we jokingly call it, comes back, he's gone. He's left the show by that point. He's gone on and started his Hollywood career and all these wonderful other things. He's gone. And remember, at the time of the Day of the Doctor and Time of the Doctor, he wasn't actually in contract. They had to bring him back. In fact, Time of the Doctor, we all know he's wearing a wig. Because he's got this other role.
Because they do that gag when he takes the wig off. And
it's awful. I hate that thing.
Yeah,
that's
awful. Well, Time of the Doctor's an appalling episode. I'm really sorry. It's awful.
That's a low, that one, for his last one. It's such a shame. But I just wish we got that missing season for him. It was absolutely criminal that they messed the scheduling around to suit Moffat rather than the actors.
I'm going to say the story qualities in that season 7, I mean, they're not very good, and Moffat said he was just trying to juggle too much with Doctor Who, Sherlock, and I think it was as well. But it's so honestly, I think personally, it's so selfish. He could have given more reign to Mark Gatiss to take over Sherlock. Doctor Who should be, to be honest, if you're show running Doctor Who, that should just be your main focus and main priority. And unfortunately, the quality of the script dropped, and as you say, Matt Smith's final season got wasted. And then by the time you get to Capaldi, Moffat is day too long. He's knackered. He's got no more ideas. He's
checked out, Emilio. He's checked out, definitely.
Yeah. You know, so he didn't do what was best for the show. It's almost narcissistic to keep holding on to it when he should have just gone, you know what, I can't give the show what it really needs. Let somebody else take over. Just not Chibnall.
Well, unfortunately, that's what happened, though.
Exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think if it was getting too much and he wanted to concentrate on Sherlock, he should have left Doctor Who rather than keep it. Sometimes I worry about people; they're trying to keep hold of everything too much. And I think that's where I think he is. Atherstone 55. Nice to see you. The scariest thing for me is when they say Capaldi was an old doctor. He's younger than me, says Atherstone 55.
I felt that he's similar age to me. That was quite scary too, I have to say. Yeah.
Capaldi is great. The scripts were bad, said Smiley people. Yeah.
He could read a menu and still I would be like, oh.
Yeah.
You can
I love one of my favourite moments of Capaldi is the regeneration sequence when he does that quick regeneration. I think it's called the sneeze regeneration apparently now.
Oh yeah, but it still took all this fanciful nonsense.
Yeah, all that ponzing about for half an hour kind of thing. But the bit when he's got new kidneys, all that kind of stuff, and does anyone know how to fly this thing? That is brilliant. That's a lovely entrance. It really is. Yeah.
Well, it's a very Doctor Who type thing to do.
Yeah, and he does it so well. You know.
That's also some of the blows, actually. As soon as we're on that point now, everybody, for me, whose viewers, these regenerations are so dull. They are so boring. And this insistence that this is how regenerates do it now. They explode in orange. And then they're going back to all the original ones and doing it all as well. Just let the directors do it the way they want to, you power mad fools, the three of you. You know what I mean? Because it's just so dull. And then just get it done. The whole last scene is about, oh, look at me, I'm about to go.
Well, the end of time is like, just regenerate for God's sake.
As a kid, I was like, "Oh my God, this is so sad." But actually, now I'm just like, "Come on, Steve, come on, go, go."
Come on, Matt, where are you?
One regeneration is actually the speech. Is Matt's one still makes me cry, but Peter's one with like the "never be cruel, never be cowardly," I just think it's beautiful.
Doctor, I'll let you go is brilliant. I
think it's beautiful. That still is a high for me. I'm just like, oh.
But no, Jodie arrived just after that. That's a problem, though. So
see, I've never actually seen. I've seen it on the compilation things, but by that point, because there's so bloody many of them now. By that point, that comes. I am bored to tears because there's so many, and from Eccleston onwards, they all look the same. And I just think, you know, you go from all this stuff. It must be a culture shock for New Who fans. You go from all these beautiful different regenerations over 26 years, and suddenly it's golden glow, golden glow, golden glow, golden glow, golden glow. And who's this woman coming up? And who's that one? It's just silly to me.
It would be more space if they did it for us new, like for us three growing up with New Who. I would have loved that more. Seeing with classic Who how they all had their own iterations of it. That would be more exciting because you don't know how are they going to go. We're used to now. We know they're going to go. So it's orange glow spicy time. It would be more fun if they did that.
Yeah,
I think the only one that really works is probably the first one with Eccleston and Tennant because that was a novelty. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was different. I wasn't expecting it at the end of time though.
No, exactly. Yeah, constantly.
But we also got something similar with the Master, and that's when I started to realise, oh, hang on, he's going to be predictable here. And
that's the high I have to point out is Derek Jacobi as the Master. I wish he did more than 1 5-minute section of the Master because he was brilliant, superb actor.
Let me just say thanks to Philip for his comment here. Philip Tassini, good to see you. I think the best episodes of old New Who, Weeping Angels, all episodes with John Sim as the Master, and Amy and Rory, Ark and Dalek with Christopher Eccleston. I liked Capaldi, but can't remember them. Yeah, okay. I can't remember them either. And Mark Milford. The 20th anniversary of Classic Who was a true celebration of its timeless legacy. New Who at the 20-year mark feels like a trendy show that's yet to stand the test of time. And going back to those Radio Times covers as well, we have to remember that at the beginning of this year, we reported on headlines that RTD said there was going to be no marking of 20 years because he thought that would confuse the public. They've just had a 60th, and they're coming back now to say, oh, the show's 20. And there's the Radio Times with those blooming covers, you know, because for once I agree with Russell there. No, don't celebrate 20 years. Let the fans do that. Don't confuse the public. And here it is. But it makes me think, well, it doesn't make me think, but it makes me really, really double down on my assertion that the public don't give a toss, quite frankly.
I feel a bit like Russell's giving us the middle finger about that when he's done this, you know what I mean?
At least there's no documentary or anything like that.
Well, we don't know yet. There might be one more series start, so who knows, but
Marcus is saying, says Marcus Barry, Doctor Who needs to be off the air for at least 10 years. It needs a proper rest.
Agreed with Marcus on that one. It needs a nice long rest. To be honest, it's one of the, it's such a unique show with such a unique idea, and it needs someone with creativity who can think of new monsters, who can, you think of what they did in the 60s and 70s in terms of the characters they created, and and the monsters and the episodes and the stories that they had. If someone could recreate that and bring some more creativity, not have the woke stuff in, get Doctor Who back to its basic, I'm sure people would be happy to forget the dross and what's kind of happened over the past kind of 5 years, let's say, or 5 to 10 years, let's say, in terms of the Doctor and the character and the Timeless Children and all of that. I think we would all be willing to mutually decide that it never happened and just go, yeah, Doctor Who back, let's just watch this, because it's a show that it needs to be on TV because it's such a great thing.
It's a British institution, but also if you're going to bring it back, don't have a fanboy. Don't have anyone. You're going to be your showrunners or your script writers. Don't have someone who's like, oh, I used to watch it as a kid and I love it, because you're just self-inserting. Have your creativity, have your creative team that, okay, watch Doctor Who, do your homework. It's a bit like nowadays with like the Marvel characters. Read your comics, do your homework, but don't use it as a self-insert that you are going to put your message in, put your things, as Emilio said, but definitely let it die. It's already dead to me. Pull the cord, let it rest, let it come back, fresh team, fresh start. Just people who are energized to create good monsters, good stories.
Yeah. And if we apply what you said, D, you don't need to be a fan of the show to be the Doctor. Matt Smith was not a fan of the show, but he did his research.
Yeah.
He went back to Troughton. So the same rule should apply for the people that run the show.
Well, Whittaker and Gatwa were not fans of the show either.
No.
But they didn't do their research.
Yeah.
Although Shooty claims that he did. Yeah. So.
Shooty Gatwa did.
Well, allegedly.
Allegedly, yes. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Let's just stress that. Allegedly, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe he had a sleep while they were on.
He was given the tapes, wasn't he, by RTD? Allegedly, RTD.
And he didn't have a player to play them on. That's what happened. So
Mudcrab is going to as thank you for your super chat, Mudcrab. Those split seasons, why are they not rests? The whole thing about that is that the season 7 was supposed to go out as one big 13 episode series. From what I can recall at the time, but because Moffat had other commitments elsewhere, all alleged, that's what we heard. They took the decision to say, well, we'll split it, and we'll have part of it there, and because we can't film anything for the year after, we'll have that one there.
Is that what happened with season 6 as well? Because they split that too, didn't they?
They did. I think
not as long though. I don't think.
No.
Yeah, I think it was all to do with the schedule of other people. Yeah.
I think that's when and then Moffat, I think, did complain about the fact that season was split into two, and I think it's the start of also the BBC not taking, think they basically took Doctor Who for granted. I think one of the great things about the first 6 years of the show is you knew what time it would be on, 7 p.m. every Saturday.
Yes,
the structure was the same. 13 episodes. It would be transmitted from April, I think, to the end of June, right, around about then. So having that consistency as an audience, knowing when it's going to be on, and then as you say, they started splitting seasons. They then, in Capaldi's series, if I remember correctly, they started changing the times from week to week when it was shown. It just goes to show the BBC did not, and I bet they regret it now. They did not value the asset that they had and treat it with the respect and the love that it actually needed. They took it.
And there's a couple of years we just had Christmas specials as well, didn't we? So it was nothing apart from Christmas.
Yeah, with Capaldi. Yeah.
I thought I'd got that wrong in my head because I can't remember. What was that about? Where was that? Because Lex, thank you for your super chat. I'm still waiting for David Dickinson, Doctor Who.
He is available. Apparently, he stopped doing that antique show that he does. He may be up for it. So.
Well, this is where we're back to as well, because the press will come out with that sort of nonsense again, like they did with us in the 80s with Paul Daniels and Doddy and all this sort of stuff. It'll get to that. So there was one year where all we had wasn't it just the superhero one?
Dr. Mysterio or something.
Dr. Mysterio, yes.
Which was awful. Another awful one. Why wasn't there a series that year? Remind me.
I don't know. Probably again to do commitments from Stephen Moffat doing Sherlock or whatever else he was doing at the time. You know.
And they did Class as well, didn't they? Was that not in that year as well?
I think so, Mars.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember why though.
Well remembered.
Well, why they did Class? No, I don't know either.
I'm well remembered.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mudcrap saying to his Tennant taking a massive farewell tour while in the middle of a regeneration. Sorry, no, you're either regenerating or you're going on a complete adventure. I know it just got silly.
Yeah.
And Dom goes saying to us, when are we getting the 14th Doctor Adventures in Donna's Garden spin-off series? Well, probably any time now, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
14's
coming back, trust me. Yeah.
Steve Hindley saying Weeping Angels were the only monster worth mentioning. And Dark Horse saying Tennant, the Doctor's best episode is his Regeneration. Ooh. And Marie UK, low by Regeneration with Tennant and Gatwa. Oh god, that has to be a real low.
That's scraping the barrel. That one is definitely
As somebody who didn't watch the Chibnall era, so I can't comment on that, but this lot will. That for me, when I watched that, I thought, what the hell is this? And by that episode, by the giggle, I was losing the will to live, quite frankly, watching this thing, because it wasn't what
I remember you thinking it started quite well. So did I. It started really well, some nice bits in it, and then it went like that, you know?
Yeah, very quickly, just so we can put some sort of stupid message into it. Steve Hindley's saying another low was everyone becoming the master. I forgot about that.
Yeah. The master race. Yeah.
Master race, yeah.
The master race.
Masters never worked.
Yeah. Although I quite like when John Sim came back with Missy, I quite like that. That was quite fun. I quite like that.
When he's a maniac. Yeah.
And being a traditional Doctor Who fan, he had a goatee and everything. It was lovely. That was nice. But
they bounced off each other well.
Sorry, Miles?
They bounced off each other quite well in that episode.
They did, yeah.
Is it enough to actually keep everybody going now? I don't know. Well, it must have done, because the show was successful for 6 years?
Yeah.
Massively successful for 6-7 years. I don't think it was anything to do with Capaldi. I think we also have to remember that the Capaldi era was mishandled by the BBC. There was one episode I seem to recall, which was on at 8:30 at night.
Yeah, I remember that.
Tying in with what you're saying, Emilio, it should be on it. If they were going to keep the 7 o'clock, they should have kept the 7 o'clock thing for its entire run, so people knew where it was. Because people will not go looking for it now.
It wasn't forced at the night. They were trying to hide that one because that one's awful. The one with the London's a forest. Remember that one?
Oh, I only remember the publicity.
That's terrible. That one, Paul. That is
awful. Yeah.
Another
I deleted that from my memory.
Yeah, there you go. It's another low. Poor Rose, making out Capaldi had worn down that wall by bashing it for 1,000 years or so. It's easy to write. In reality, he would have gone mad or ended it all. It was dumb. Mm-hmm.
I have to say that episode, Capaldi's brilliant, but it's pretentious crap. I'm sorry, it really is. But,
There's not many actors who are playing the Doctor that can hold an episode on their own.
Yeah.
Tom, definitely.
Yeah.
Pertwee could do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if John would. I don't know if John could. Just John. The whole thing about John's era was that it was the unit family, or the master.
He's got enough charisma to hold an episode on his own. Put it that way.
Well, gravitas, I think.
Yeah.
I'd even say Eccleston could do it. Anybody with like some sense of like green presence and gravitas, and kind of, can look after themselves basically.
Yeah.
I bet like Matt Smith or Peter Davison, those doctors. It wouldn't work, but yeah.
Yeah, I was, for me personally, I'd say Tom Baker and Peter Capaldi, the only two that can. I mean, we saw it. I would do that. It's interesting, that one, isn't it? You certainly couldn't do it with the latest two.
No.
It feels like RTD is trying to erase all previous series and force people to pay attention to the new one, says Marie UK.
It's not going to work.
No chance.
No.
He's got no chance of doing that. He can't. You can't tell us that, can he? And Killbot Kill, New Who Regeneration equals cut, copy, paste. Yep. And Enspiel, hello to you, mate. Lows, both Billy Piper and David Tennant outstaying their welcome. Marital paving slabs, lack of variety in writers, and being reminded that Bill is a lesbian. Who knew? Every few minutes.
Even in that, was it the Eaters of Light episode with the Romans? That was interesting. I had to ram that home, no pun intended.
Oh.
Yeah.
All these beloved franchises are on the same boat. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, says Paul Rose. They can all be saved, but need a major overhauls. Do you know, Paul Rose, I wish I was on the same page of you with that one, because although I believe that Doctor Who does need to come off the air for a few years and a rest, part of me is saying there isn't enough support for it to bring it back. And that's because, having lived through the wilderness years, the original wilderness years, we all knew it was going to come back. There was no doubt. We were so positive. We were so supportive. We were continuing to write to the BBC for years. We eventually got the 1996 thing. And when that didn't work abroad, we knew it would come back at some point on British television. We just knew. And there was a sense of optimism. I don't feel that anymore. I don't get it now. I don't know about you, Paul. What do you think?
I agree, because I've lived through all that and wished for it to come back constantly, and people wanted to come back. The general public were fond of it as well. Now no one likes it, to be honest. So that's the problem. There's no fandom, and the general public have left. So we need enough time for people to miss it for it to come back. You know what I mean?
And that's what's worried me. You three have grown up with this. Do you think there's enough of your generation to want it back in, say, 15 years?
No, I think people would come back and check it out in the future, and that would just be because we'll be older by then and we'll be recommending it. But I don't think so, no. I think RTD had his chance. I think the highs, 2-3 years ago, that everyone was so excited for David and that to come back and RTD to come back. And then it just fell flat completely. And I think that chance is now gone, completely gone. I think if he'd done it right, he could have done it, but he just messed it up completely.
So to misquote Catherine Tate, you guys aren't bothered then, no? Not bothered.
No.
So that's what concerns me. I mean, RTD, and we'll talk more about this at the weekend. RTD has gone into the Radio Times this week saying that he now thinks it's infallible, or whatever the word is he used. He thinks it's proof that
indestructible.
That's it, yeah.
And I didn't.
What your ratings are, right, mate? Sorry,
if I didn't have you guys, I still would have not been fussed that it was going to end. And to me, like, it finished with Peter Capaldi.
Yeah.
And I love this community that we've built, that especially us three, that we're watching classic Who and seeing it for what it is. And us three have always got that comfort that we do have our new Who that we grew up with, that you can still watch it and it's still fantastic, and you can still fault it for a dodgy script, and it's not getting something shoved down your throat about ideology. You can accept that, and it's comfort, and it's nice. You can still watch. So it needs its time. I'm not fussed if it ever comes back. We've got this community, and it's brilliant looking back at classic Who and still like reviewing like the 5 Doctors or the 3 Doctors and how many years ago that was, that we still celebrate it and champion it. Scores in the TARDIS stories. If you look back at most of these streams, that actions speak louder. That you can see all the scores that we give, and we still champion, and we still fault it, pick it to bits. But that's what we do. We're nerds. We love that.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Yeah, that's why we're here. But with like Space Babies and Devil's Chords and all this stuff, that's going to be not fashionable. It's not going to hold justice. We're not going to be like, oh, in 15 years' time, us three, shall we watch Space Babies? It'll be, can we go watch Blink? Or
I can't see in the future when you're 70, Kirsty, doing your own YouTube channel and you're talking about Space Babies. I can't see that at all. I can't.
No. Digby's saying to you there, Kirsty, completely right, Kirsty. No fans, just people who love good drama. It's weird comparing the lack of excitement around the 60th anniversary versus the 50th. The 60th anniversary was atrocious. It was such a letdown. I remember being really excited about what was going to happen. And it was just such a slap in the face. There was nothing about, even the anniversary specials that they called them were nothing to do with an anniversary. There was no reference to the previous Doctor Who's at all. Again, it was just all about them. He used that anniversary to reboot the show in his own new image for his own ideology. And it was just atrocious. It was absolutely shocking.
I remember being so excited when the Star Beast was coming, and I'd seen a couple of behind-the-scenes photographs of Beat the Meat. I thought, yes, this is going to be brilliant. and it was awful. So
if they just stuck to the original classic comic strip, it would have been fabulous.
Yeah.
But we were really let down in that one. And the 50th anniversary for me, as I say, I don't like the Day of the Doctor. Don't rate it much. I think it's terrible because it doesn't celebrate 50 years of Who, as I said. But I always compare. I mean, the 20th anniversary for me is 1983, which was magical. You had to be there. It was huge. We had a season, a fairly solid season starring Peter Davison. You had a special, a 90-minute special, the first ever 90-minute special we'd ever had. You had coverage on BBC shows. You had the Radio Times. You had books coming out. You had merchandise coming out. There was a massive, huge convention. It was never to be repeated. You had to be there, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The 50th, I remember, was quite big because they had like you had the Doctors on the Stamp. There was massive conventions. There was a lot of noise in the media. I mean, even like people in my family who don't normally watch Doctor Who sat down and watched the 50th anniversary. I agree, JT. I'm not a massive fan of the Day of the Doctor, but great to see Tom Baker. When you hear his voice, you're like, wow, the hairs on the back of your neck. You're like, wow, yeah, this is exciting. But I do agree. I think the 60th anniversary was probably never going to work because the damage was done by Chrissy Chibnall. And I think even if RTD had put a great script in for the Derby, then it wasn't political. I still think it had it was fighting an uphill battle already as it was. I do agree with Miles that basically, like, because of that first episode, it basically destroyed any hope for the second era. But I do think, if we really want to go back to, I think Chibnall's era, completely killed the show stone dead, and that's why the 60th anniversary was even compared to the 50th was completely different and fell flat.
Yeah, you see, this is where being a pretentious person in the industry doesn't work for you, because as far as I'm concerned, as somebody who's not in the industry now, all I would have done for 60th anniversary specials of Doctor Who, if they insisted on bringing Tennant and Tate back, was have the 10th Doctor and Donna before the events that happened to Donna, right?
Yeah.
Before that, because they're time travelers. And I would have had at least one episode with the Daleks, because it was their 60th anniversary as well. And I would have had 3 episodes that were linked.
Yeah.
So you had a 3-hour movie. And that's how I would have done it. And there would have been acknowledgements to the original series on that. It wouldn't have been all this new stuff about rebooting it with Regeneration and what a waste of a life that 14th Doctor was as well. You know, although you guys have told me now the Doctor has a limitless regenerations, which I think is ridiculous. The Ark in Space is saying series 1 to 4 is peak New Who for me. Eccleston and Tennant were great after that. But after that, I was going out and getting pissed, etc. I had a job. So the Matt Smith era was a bit of a blur. Ha ha ha. Well, yeah. A bit the same for me in the 90s, but there was no Doctor Who on. So there you go.
I think in terms of extending the Doctor's life, we had that in Time with the Doctor, didn't we? So we got a new cycle of regenerations. And since they made that a rule, they can do what they like. And then you have the timeless children. So there's everyone's the Doctor. We could be the Doctor, you know? So
I'm still confused by all this. Mark is saying to Mark Milford, end it now, but the magic is still there, waiting in the classic Doctor Who episodes, and in the minds of those who remember, and in the hearts of fans who truly understand why it mattered. I know what you're saying, and that's lovely to know. I'm just a little bit sort of at the moment. Really, how are they? Sometimes I actually just think that this is the last. It had a chance to reboot it and bring everybody back, because without your fan base, people in show business, you are nothing. Don't slag them off. Don't take the pee. Respect them and give them stuff that they want to. They want to watch and buy into, and buy being a word, by the way, because they'll buy your merchandise.
Yeah. Going back to Chibnall's era briefly, if we have to, there's a couple of things I did like about that.
You can talk about it as much as you want.
Yeah, okay, well, there's a couple of things I did like about it. I quite like the way Chibnall handled the Daleks. The 2 out of the 3 specials, I quite like the first 2, Resolution and Revolution of the Daleks. I quite like them. I quite like the idea they made the Daleks a bit more interesting in this, and probably the best they've been used for a while. And I quite like is Assad, the kind of emotional Cyberman we talked about in the Cyberman coverage a while ago. He was a great character, but again squandered, which is such a shame. You know, so there's a couple of bits I liked about it, but generally it was fairly meh, you know. But not as meh as we have now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of meat on the bones for Jodie's era. Not much. There's a little bit of meat though that you can sort of nibble into. But compared to Shoot It, God, no.
I mean, I quite like the episode with Rosa Parks, but it felt like
Yes.
Quantum Leap rather than Doctor Who. You know what I mean? It's kind of a different sort of show. You know?
This is one of the lows about the reboot film. And it's been a soap opera all the way through since 2005 onwards, which everybody will know I detest. Doctor Who is not a soap opera, and I don't believe that the British audience need to think it is in order to watch it, because people are very capable of watching different genres of television.
Yeah.
But the other thing about it, it's just been all this sort of, it just doesn't suit it. For me, it just doesn't mean Doctor Who. And Doctor Who, as I've said before, it was a show that others looked at and thought we could do that. This one's just been a carbon copy, as some of you are saying in the chat. It's taken its Smallville, Buffy, etc., etc. It's a shame. Digby, another one. Thank you there, Digby, for your super chat. Perhaps what we need is someone to discover the classic series and bring that back. I think that could be happening. And Lex Kane super chat, YouTube fan projects of Doctor Who is the future. Strange that, because it was last time, wasn't it? When the show went off the air in 1989, suddenly there were all these fan projects arriving on video. Hello, Mark. Mark A. Wright is with us. To be asked back to save the show and then to look at the Chibnall era and say, yep, we'll have more of that, simply beggars belief.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I do think the real issue with the Chibnall era is, if the BBC only employed him because he wanted a female. Well, he wanted a female doctor, and that's the direction he wanted to go in. But they clearly didn't have an idea of who could take over Moffat. And if they had asked Chris Chibnall, so what's your idea of the main villain for your first series? And then you said, was it Tim Shaw? With the tooth on him. And you would just be
Tim
like,
Shaw?
How the hell is that even making the clip editing room? It's just, I think ultimately it's just, you chose someone who, generally speaking, had pretty meh, if not rubbish, episodes when they'd written before, and clearly, has his trope like countdown clocks, and has I believe a real lack of imagination. I do agree, Paul, that kind of what he did with the Dalek mutant kind of on the back and control. There were some small hints of creativity, but generally speaking, there was no creativity there. They were just trying to ride the wave on the fact that this is the first female Doctor, and look how amazing we are. Look how great our episodes are, and that's literally what they were just trying to say, justify why it's good. So yeah, no time for that. I think the minute you change the Doctor gender, that was always going to be the end game, really.
Well, that's what was predicted years ago. Let's stick with that in a second. Farsight, thank you. The show can be brought back. It needs a rest till everyone has forgotten about the past few years. Either get someone in who isn't a fan as a producer, or involve someone like Lance Park in production. Gosh, there's a name. The only advantage that Doctor Who has now, Farsight, for me, is that nobody has been watching the last few years, as we prove with Bedwyer's rating analysis here on the channel. There is no one. The British public have gone. And, if you ask them the question, who's this?
They've already forgotten, haven't they? That's the thing.
They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know who that is. They can't tell you. Or they can't say that's Doctor Who. And you can call me anything you want because I'm used to it. She doesn't look like the Doctor. What the hell is all this rainbow stuff for? What's the costume about?
She actually looks like a rainbow TV presenter. Remember with Zippy and George?
I do remember it very well, Paul. Yeah. Would you?
I know you do. It's for the kids.
Yeah. But I mean, let's look at those Radio Times covers again that have been released by the Radio Times yesterday. Look. I'm sorry, but these outfits. The Eccleston one, I understand. The Tennant one, passable. The Smith one, that's the Doctor.
Yeah.
Capaldi one, that's the Doctor. And then you get these two clowns at the very end.
Yeah.
No. They haven't even got the outfit. I mean, we even know that Gat was changing every 20 seconds, don't we?
Yeah.
But
they keep putting him in that leather jacket, though, because they obviously like that one. And
well, it must have cost them a bloody fortune, considering it must have
just a jacket alone. Yeah.
So it must do. But also that I think they cottoned on. That must be his look. That has to be the look of him, because that's even though it's a leather jacket, it's a long coat.
Because he looks quite cool in that, I have to say. Yeah. If you've not seen any of the episodes, he looks quite good. You know what I mean? So.
Given Shaft.
Yeah, definitely Shaft vibes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think it's, again, when it comes to the casting of Gatwa and everything that's happened, the redesign of the sonic screwdriver, not putting into predictable stuff. Let's change the clothes on him. I think they were terrified about him being black, to be quite honest. Because of their perceptions. We know what these people are. They're so far left. They're the ones with all the bigotry and nonsense. Or we can't have him have something that looks like, the sonic screwdriver did. We'll redesign it so it doesn't have any sharp edges. You know what I'm trying to get out there? Or we can't have him doing this sort of thing because people might think it's... No, that's just you lot thinking that.
Give your audience some credit for some intelligence. That'd be good.
But they don't, do they? And even the scripts don't do that.
Well, it doesn't help in terms of, as you look at those images, the first four have a real presence with the costume, but also have a look, and the other two just look meek. They don't own even from a still image. They don't own the page basically.
They're like rabbits in the headlights, aren't they? Kind of thing.
Exactly.
They don't carry it.
I actually quite like. Was it Ryan Gosling was wearing a t-shirt with Shooty? And I just always felt that kind of turtleneck with a nice sharp suit. He could have worn a really, really suave Pertwee kind of costume. Instead, they go down the route of him basically wearing women's jackets and stuff like that. I think you give your doctor, you give your show no chance when you take that direction.
Yeah. No, I'm inclined to agree with that because it's a case of, I think they're pandering too much to their perceptions of what they believe in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hello, David. Evening all. As for the 60th, could you have accepted Jodie regenerating, but we don't see who into like the original plan? Then a 3-part 8th Doctor adventure where he met the new Doctor in the last episode. No, I couldn't do that. It's too fanish. I'm always gonna say I'm gonna represent the great British public. The great British public just want to be entertained. They don't want all this continuity. They don't want all these faces from 400 years ago. They just want a good story. Give them a good actor who plays the Doctor and the Daleks. That's all they want, basically. That's the great British public for you. So I wouldn't have liked that. I don't know. I just think we've got to get away and remember that it's not a show for fans. Technically, it's got to be a show for everybody. That's what they've forgotten over the last several years, and now it's only a minority of fans that they're pandering to, who are all part of some brainwashing nonsense. Doctor Who Mania, hello to you. It's nice to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. Replying to somebody in the chat, not at all. We can all write stories that on paper sound interesting, but people here act like they could do a lot better. Well, I'll tell you, I could. I could do a lot better than RTD's done over the last few years, and probably Chibnall, because I know what Doctor Who is, and I've got no agenda apart from telling the British public a good Doctor Who story every week.
I think whether you can or can't, you're entitled to your opinion, whether you want to criticize it or not. That's the thing,
Yeah, you have to be. You have to be. And the fact that since the introduction of Whittaker, the production team and the fan base that suddenly appeared around it because it was the first female Doctor Who started calling original fans of not just the original 1963-89 Superior show, but also the 2005 to 2017 show, Ots, Is and Phobes. That was out of order, and it carries on to this day. That's shocking. That's one of the lows of these 20 years for me, seeing an alleged fan base going right down the toilet. Absolutely shocking behavior.
JT as well, as a gay man, you've got one up on them because you could do a lot better, but you wouldn't be shoving all your ideologies and thoughts and feelings down because you're just you're a gay man, but you'd be doing your job.
Yeah,
and that's what we're missing nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, JNT never did that. He could have done very easily. He could have brought. I mean, John knew every drag queen going. He could have brought them all into the show, but he didn't because he understood Doctor Who and he understood the audience and he understood that his show was going out at 7:35 on a Monday, Tuesday, whatever it was going to be, Monday, Wednesday. So he knew he had to entertain. He also understood late in the day it's not just for the fans.
Yeah,
late in the day. But now they're just saying, right, it's for a minority of fans as far as I can see.
But you just have to look back at season 1 and compare it to Russell's earlier stuff, and he's just repeating himself constantly. And so is Stephen Moffat. So there's no originality in it now. So it isn't good. If you can't see it's not good, there's something wrong, I think.
Yeah.
I also say I think they again, you're the custodian of the show when you're show running it, right? You need to understand what is Doctor Who, what is it about, what makes Doctor Who work. You don't change that. You don't try and think you're too clever and start putting your ego above the show. And I think ultimately that's what's gone wrong. Is they're not the people who run it think that they know better and that they want to try and fit it into Doctor Who, into what they feel Doctor Who should be, rather than actually understanding, don't break what's what works, right? To keep the Doctor is a male, he has a companion, he fights monsters. You can do some interesting things with stories, you can be creative in that way, but you don't change those fundamental things. And yeah, they've just had too much fun with their toys, basically.
They've lost their way. They're a huge.
Yeah.
Alex, thank you for your super chat. Jodie looks like character Elf from the TV quest show Nightmare. I'm too old to remember any of that, so I don't know why. But thank you, mate. And Doctor Who Mania back with us saying the fandom's taken a real hit over the past decade or so from people who want their version of the show they watched growing up, whether it be classic Who or new Who. It needs to adapt to survive. I totally agree. I totally agree. It needs to adapt to survive. Actually, if you look at the entirety of 26 years of superior television through the original series, through 7 Doctors, it always adapted to survive. And as I've said many times on this channel, you can actually learn about the history of British television by watching Doctor Who from 1963 to 1989, because it's all in there. Technology, camera techniques, directorial changes, script editing techniques, script writing techniques, lighting, it's all in there over 26 years. When it comes to what they're doing now, by adapting to survive, it depends what you mean by that, because at the moment it's not surviving. We've proven that time and time again on these shows. It's not surviving because it's alienated huge amounts, millions of its core fan base of all generations. It's alienated the great British public. Nobody gives a flying booby-doo. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the thing. And I guarantee you that this thing coming up in the next couple of weeks is going to be the actual final nail in the coffin, to the point now where we know that BBC studios who want to believe in it and want to keep it going are allegedly looking at how do we do it next, because they've got it wrong again. They got it wrong with Chibnall, they've got it wrong with RTD2, and the whole thing about it is separating Doctor Who Mania, your own personal opinions of, oh, let's push this into the show, as Amelia was saying there. It's a science fiction family show about a Time Lord, male, and his companion fighting monsters every week. That's it.
It's adapted into something else. It's no longer Doctor Who, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
it's become something else. They've changed it so much, it's become another show. That's the problem.
Well, it's not Doctor Who now, is it? I mean, we looked at that thing last year, and that thing where it went to Rogue, and I was nearly sick. Nearly sick. How dare they do that to the Doctor? The Doctor is not queer, homophobic slur. He is not. He's not a human being. He is an alien, and that's one of the massive lows of this version of the series for me, guys. They have forgotten he's a Time Lord from Gallifrey in the constellation of Cerberus. They've humanized him so much, and all that crying nonsense.
I do think
hopefully when we do the reviews, JT, we can have a cryometer as well. Can we add that to the reviews?
Yes, it's all set.
Good stuff, lovely. That's fantastic.
I do think the issue is that I think our generation have been fed on this lie that Doctor Who is all about change.
Oh, yeah. Where's that come from?
Change is part of Doctor Who, and Doctor Who can adapt, and it has adapted, but it shouldn't be adapting to suit the particular modern audience that of the day. I think where it needs to adapt it, going from Barry Letts to a Hinchcliffe era, right? The stories are very, very different. They're very interesting. It's a different take. It's adapting and changing it, maybe style of storytelling a little bit in terms of the themes, but that's really where it should happen. It shouldn't be, we should, because the Doctor should be gay now, and the Doctor should do this, and the Doctor isn't a Time Lord and is from some random place, portal, whatever. It's good because Doctor Who's all about change. That's just it. That narrative just doesn't work. But our generation have been fed that. And I think that's the main problem.
We've got Doctor Who Mania saying to us here, Paul, classic Who wouldn't have seen a second season if it wasn't for the Daleks. Also, you were in 3-channel land from 63 to 89 for most people, so you had to watch what was on TV. Well, can I just remind you as well that if it hadn't been for the inclusion of the Daleks in Series 1 of 2005, you wouldn't have got through to a 2006 or 2008. It was the Daleks that made it again. The Daleks are a huge draw with the British public today. They won't be seen in the Gatwa era because they're problematic. He hasn't got the balls to show them because they just go around zapping everything. But yeah, I mean, the Daleks made 2005. Look at that episode, Series 6 in 2005. It's a classic. Well done, Robert Sherman.
Yeah.
Well done. It's
and they've never topped it since, have they? Let's be honest.
No, not really. I mean, that's the one where all of us from the original series went, why are we emotional over a bloody Dalek?
Yeah.
Great.
And you're punching the air when they helped stop all the lazy journalism about stairs and all that kind of stuff, and the plunger and all that kind of thing, you know.
But you remember in those days, of course, you went to the pub, and I remember going to the pub with my Doctor Who friends at the time, and we were all going, what happened to us? Why was that so good? Why did we feel sorry for this thing? Because we've hated them for years. Yeah. It was brilliant, massively done. Yeah. Enspiel saying, out of curiosity, I looked at a modern Doctor Who YouTube channel. What? There are more channels? No.
Are there?
Can't be other channels apart from Who's Views. Don't waste your time. Are there? No. Anyway, the new fandom has some hideous elements. If you don't like Shooty, then you can't call yourself a fan. I hate all that. Yeah. Grow up. Grow up. Yes, you can. A fan's role is to love and criticize the series, and that's what we do here. We love it, but we'll criticize the new nonsense that's daring to call itself Doctor Who. Hey, Kirst.
That is a low full stop of the past 20 years as well. That we have lost, not just in Doctor Who, but in Star Wars, Marvel, DC. There's a lot of things, and all of those things right now I don't agree with. But if you like it, knock yourself out. I have a conversation with someone about the pros and cons of different things coming out, or what they thought about the latest movie or the latest comic or the latest episode. That's what we miss nowadays. Is if you don't like something, you're dead. You like Shooty and you like his new series, knock yourself out. I'm happy for you. You keep that spirit and you keep that show alive. But for us, it's not what we want right now. Yeah. And that's okay.
But the thing is, Kirsty, as we know, sorry, Kirsty, the thing is we know, Kirsty, is that there's not enough people invested in the new series. They left with Whittaker after a first episode, and they've been leaving continually since. And the fact is, in Britain now, as we know and we have reported on headlines, the show is ridiculed now. And anybody that ridicules it is automatically branded ist, phobe, ot, old, whatever, right wing. Who cares? If people have a right to criticize it. And the fact is, it is ridicule. We were joking there about, how David Dickinson could be the next Doctor Who. That's the level we're back to. That's where we're at.
I would kill for David Dickinson as the Doctor right now, but that's another story. I was going to say about change. This is important. When William Hartnell left and they regenerated him, that was because he couldn't continue, wasn't very well, etc. Right? And then we got Patrick Troughton. Regeneration was there to help out the series to keep it going. Now they change it all the time. The Doctor changes every other week, just about, And it's like, come on, they've ruined the Regeneration idea. It's become really trivial. And I think that's what's people going about change. It's changing the Doctor and the format and all that kind of stuff. You can't keep changing them every other week. They have to be in the role for long enough time to be established and liked and enjoyed, like Pertwee or Baker or whoever, and be there for a long time to establish a proper Doctor. And they don't do that anymore.
I think it's also sorry, can I just say, I think it's also the fact that if you look at actually Peter Davison is still to this day remembered as a Doctor Who. Yeah. And yet he only did 3 years.
Yeah.
He did more episodes than but he had the impact. Colin and Sylvester, bless them, not so much remembered by the public.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same, I think, now for possibly Capaldi, bless him, but definitely for Whittaker and Gatwa. They're not going to remember.
Yeah.
And PTA Kirsty is saying to us, Jinx Monsoon should be the next Doctor.
But what I was about to say is that nowadays, especially within the past year, when we've been doing headlines and whatnot, us three in particular, and the rest of the boys, we've all been called ists, phobes, all the ists and books under the sun. That loses the meaning of the word. And also, when different groups and communities like this, that we are here for the love of the program or a book or a movie, whatever, you kind of, you take on anyone, you can speak to anyone from backgrounds and whatnot, and that's the beauty of art, as I say in my job, the art of that brings people together. You all come from different backgrounds, but we're here because we love it, and we should all, as humans and tolerant people, stand up for people who are actually like that and are the ists and the phobes. And it just loses the meaning that we're just simply saying we don't like this right now. And it's just that's the lowest of the low. It's scummy of the past 20 years of how this fandom has turned out. So
Such
it
a
really
shame.
that.
Yeah. Agreed,
And then
Ken.
they use
Yeah.
this, it's hate. It's hate now, isn't it? That's what they call it. To have an opinion, it's hate. It's toxic
ridiculous,
fandom, all that nonsense. It's like
And
If
these
you
people
dislike
that-
something, it's hate, and I think ultimately, to your point, Kirsty, is the fact that if you love something and you care about it, like you would, with a sibling or relative or child, you want what's best for that person, and sometimes that means you have to criticize and give constructive feedback. And ultimately, if you don't like a direction of travel Doctor Who going in, it's ultimately, as long as it isn't done in an aggressive, malice way, and it's just your opinion, then that's fine. I mean, there's no, you come from a place of love and care, and as a fan, you're entitled to say that. But I think, as you were saying, Paul, it's just this is a society thing. It's a conflict between hate and disagreement, and we conflate the two, and that's just wrong.
And you can still be friends. We did that, didn't we, JT? In the 80s, growing up as fans, you go to the pub, have an argument about whether like Time Flight or whatever, or Time Lash in Phil's case or whatever, and just argue about that, and then you still be friends, and that's fine, isn't it? You know what I mean?
That's how it was. We had an ability in the old world to agree to disagree. Unfortunately, now that is not there because there's so many extreme left wingers coming along who will absolutely enforce the dictator view. That's how I see it. We've got a law coming in next month, which really annoys me from this bloody government we've got in now. That is not even a British style thing and protects their paymasters. It's absolutely outrageous what's going on. And I just can't abide what's happening. It's amazing how these so-called fans have so little faith in the show that in transgenerations for 26 years, says Farsight. Silver Wolf is saying, whose views is the only views I take notice of? Well, quite right too. And Bill Lowry saying to us, other Who channels, it makes no sense. Well, no, it doesn't. They'll all be carbon copies of us anyway, won't they? I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. Did you see that one from Paul Thomas for you as well, saying, well said, Kirsty? Well done to you. Yeah, brilliant. Marie UK saying to us, Doctor Who should reflect the quintessential British nerd, someone who feels like they don't always fit in, but they can keep a stiff upper lip and come through in a crisis. Yeah, it just needs to be entertainment. We've got a real problem in the United Kingdom now that the BBC has lost millions of license fee payers. It's in trouble. It's in trouble. It's because it's funded by the license fee. They're even thinking of bringing laws in to enforce it so that we have to pay it, whether we use it or not, as part of tax. So that's ridiculous. They're that desperate, and the government are that desperate for some reason to support them. But it just needs to entertain. People in Britain want entertained, and they want to be given stuff which is going to take them away from the incredible troubles we have in our country on a day-to-day basis, because Britain is right now going through incredible times, and it's not good. It really isn't good. And there's a lot of division. But as you guys are all saying, anybody that stands up against that division or speaks out about it, or it was branded, immediately branded. It's such a shame. And that's coming to Doctor Who. So people
it's also had an impact on the media side, JT, in terms of because we now live in a much more kind of a divisive and maybe social media and all of that kind of stuff. The kind of the messaging around the show is Doctor Who's super woke. Oh, and then you've got article coming out saying fans should just who don't like a female Doctor are misogynist, and so what the maybe general audience maybe pick up and hear is just it's not kind of like it's not positive, let's just say that. And so I think it's a very difficult environment for Doctor Who to do well but it is a result of it becoming more political and the BBC becoming more political at the end of it.
And not neutral in any way. It's very much extreme left.
Yeah.
you know, and they have been dictating their views since the Scottish vote, to be quite honest. You know, that's where it all started. That's where I started to notice it and thinking, hang on a minute, you can't tell friends of mine they can't vote for it or they should vote for this. It's a democracy. Don't ask them what their vote is. It's private. Call me old-fashioned. Lex Kane, thanks for your super chat. Crying Gatwa reminds me when cries like the character Rembrandt Brown from the science fiction series Sliders. I never got into Sliders, actually. That was another thing where, you know, they'd been aware of this sort of stuff, wasn't it? When they were bringing Doctor Who back, it was a lot of American shows built up the 2005 reboot, to be quite honest.
I think Sliders stopped the McGann movie becoming a series, I think, which is a blessing.
It did. I think it did. Yeah. I think it did. Ezra Goldstein, welcome to Who's Views. It's lovely to see you with the hashtag now, which is becoming legendary. Hashtag RIP Doctor Who. This is the difference now between Doctor Who is where it is now and where it was in 89. In 1989, we all wanted the show saved. In 2025, the majority of fandom are saying, please take the bloody thing off. It's embarrassing us.
Yeah.
And get somebody in, like Kirsty was saying, who knows what they're doing. PTA, thank you for the super chat. Who would everyone in the panel cast as the next Doctor? There you go, guys. Have a think on that.
One.
Recently, I just actually, with Jodie, I was watching Toxic Town on Netflix, and Rory Kinnear.
Really?
Whoa. Now, Rory Kinnear, bless him, was actually one of those actors that was put around at the time, I seem to remember, in 2003, 2004, really? Rory Kinnear. He's had a wonderful career on the Bond. A lot of you will know him as Bond in the Bond films, but he's had a fantastic stage career as well.
Or Ben, actually talking of Bond, Ben Whishaw as well.
He's completely loop de loop now, isn't he? I hope it's not affecting his acting. I read some of the stuff he was saying recently. I thought, what planet are you on? What are you talking about? Where are you, mate? Go on, anyone else?
Was it the version of David Copperfield that was done recently with Dev Patel? I think he'd make a great Doctor. Yeah.
Oh, Dev Patel, lovely actor.
Yeah,
lovely actor. Yeah.
I always thought Aidan Turner, who did Poldark, I thought he would have. He got a good screen presence about him, and be interested to have a Doctor with interesting hair as well. You know, kind of. But yeah, no, I think he would have made a good Doctor at the time.
Okay, Miles.
I don't think you'd ever do it, and I think everyone's already said it before. But Idris Elba, I think he'd be a good Doctor. But he's too big now, I think, to do.
Yeah,
Doctor I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Too big now.
There was always the stuff about Joseph Patterson and the fact that we knew he wanted to do it, but I think he would have had a nice touch and a nice approach because he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
For me, I'd still go for Aneurin Bernard, who I still think is a marvelous actor. I think he's fantastic.
And he's got great hair as well for the Doctor, which is superb.
Yeah, there you go, Emilio. He's got great hair. You will, if you don't know the name, he was in 73 Yards as the dodgy politician last year. Yeah. Wonderful stage presence, and I think he would have been a marvelous Doctor.
Because we've never had a Welsh Doctor, have we, so far? So yeah.
No. Hey, thank you for that question, PTA. Just Jordan's with us. Hello, Just Jordan. As your dad, one of the worst things is you can't have a discussion anymore because you risk getting absolutely slammed in the worst way. Doctor Who fandom has been doing that now for years. I've actually lost friends that I knew for years because I didn't want a female Doctor Who. I didn't want a female Doctor Who in 1981. I didn't want one when it actually happened, and I still don't want one today.
Well, it was a joke, remember? I keep saying that. Tom Baker, naughty Tom Baker. That's terrible. Yeah.
Well, they proved it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Plymouth Who, they used to work hard to get an audience. Now they just expect an audience to tune in regardless of quality. That's a great point, actually. Did you see this coming through, especially through the Moffat era, the complacency of Doctor Who?
The trouble is now they don't want you to watch it. They just say go away, don't they? So it's a different take on it now, isn't it?
That's another good point.
Yeah. Go and touch grass. Away you go. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
It stopped in the Moffat era. I think the care of each episode, and as I say, monster of the week, what monster is it going to be? What's the story we're trying to tell here? You know, I think it just became too concerned about the season finales and the kind of arc side rather than the individual episodes. And I think that ultimately what you tended to get was you may get one great episode in the season, but there was no real consistency in terms of quality. So it was gradually going downhill. If you compare it to RTD1, I can happily go and watch maybe 6 or 7 very, very good episodes in each season, and I would say they're very, very good episodes. If you count this, go through the seasons, you'll find less and less you would have a Family of Blood or Satan's Pit, or those kind of episodes became a lot more rare, in my humble opinion, anyway.
I think I'm inclined to. I'll agree with you, because as we're looking at what episodes from the Reboot Who to review as we move forward, it's very difficult when I look at them and think, oh, what are we going to do? And the response from viewership has been slower to the Matt Smith episode reviews we've done and the David Tennant episodes we've reviewed than they are for Classic, or Proper Who, as I call it. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Doc Martin, nice to see you. I missed the days when Doctor Who was something to look forward to. Yeah,
So do I.
I do as well, actually. And Mark A. Wright, I'd love to have heard an argument over Time Fleet. We'll make sure you are subscribed and stay tuned to us, because it will happen at some point here on this channel. We will be getting to Time Flight at some point. Ooh, that's going to be really fun, actually. I haven't watched it in years.
It's worth of Anthony Ainley doing his maddest performance ever. It's superb.
It is. Graham, Graham. If I was Gatwa, I'd be disappointed that I had to play the role in a way. I had to post the role in a way it's expected. Look at Pertwee. When he took over, he played the role differently to the comedic portrayal most expected. I would love to know, and one day we will at some point in the future, how Gatwa wanted to play it and what he wanted to wear, because he was overruled by his bosses. What can you do?
He might come on here. You never know. So.
I did see an image of the it was like a Ralph Lauren. It was meant to be kind of like prep schooly, right? Like it was going to be like a tweedy kind of outfit. It's, I'll give him that. At least he's on the right lines. At least he was thinking about his costumes in the right kind of way to then get what we've ended up getting.
He'd look a bit like Chris Eubank, wouldn't he? That kind of outfit that Chris Eubank used to wear. That sort of outfit, wasn't it?
He would pull it off, I think.
He might, yeah.
And as Shooty proved in one of his episodes last year, he can wear velvet. So he could have gone down the elegant route side of stuff as well, Well, we're not going to know right now. We might know one day if he decides to actually tell us what went on behind the scenes, or somebody said. But
I thought in Rogue he looked like a poor man's prince, to be honest, in that one. But
yeah. But no, I'm thinking of the one he did for Boom, because he had a velvet jacket on.
Oh yeah.
That lovely short one. Yeah. But he certainly didn't introduce the honey and the crying, did he?
No. And I've heard it would the production team that wanted to push, or certain individual wanted to push this kind of gender fluid clothing, right? So again, I think with him, it's like RTD, great success. I'm just going to go, look, whatever you say, you're the expert, right? And it kind of like, he's obviously not mature enough of an actor, not to say that he's a great actor anyway, but he's not mature enough to be like an Eccleston, who could probably, or push back and stand his ground. I think he would very much be like, you're the expert, RTD. I trust what you're doing, and he buys into all of that kind of.
To be honest, Emilio, they all did. They all did, because they went to RTD to carry this show with all the execs and all this, as we know now, and they all, because he had a massive hit in 2005, 6, 7, and 8, they all trusted him to get this right. How wrong they were, because he's not the same man. So he's let them all down in a sense. And it's something I certainly will not be letting him forget on this channel over the next year as we go into the new series reviews. Lots of you in the chat. Thank you. Dark Hall. Chris Marshall, I think, would be a great doctor. He said he wouldn't do it, though, if I remember correctly. He said if something, it didn't interest him. I might be wrong. Enspiel. Ben Daniels. Oh, no, there's an actor. I used to say Ben Daniels back in the day, actually. Lex Kane is saying to us, the actor from Endeavour, the next Doctor Who. That's Sean Evans. Again, a lovely actor. And from Liverpool. Hurrah. Dax22, nice to see you. Hi all, quite new to the channel. Been watching for a few months. Well, it's nice to see you. Thank you very much. It's always a great show. Having rewatched New Who recently up to the end of Capaldi. Gosh, are you okay? Do you need some ice or something? I realised how, despite some stories, Capaldi was great.
Oh, yeah.
I always remember his performance, Dax22. I just can't remember a lot of his stories. Apart from, I think my favourite one has to be Deep Breath.
Oh, he's great in that. It's a really good opener, isn't it? Yeah.
What an impact he had in that episode. Again, at the end of the episode, Miles, I watched that episode and think, there's the Doctor.
If you want to see some great acting, for me, I love Faith the Raven in particular. Obviously, I don't like all the repercussions of it, but if you watch his acting when basically, like, Clara's basically knows that she's gonna have to die. You watch his reaction. The he doesn't know how to process it, and then how he gets angry at Shilda. Honestly, the acting, it's a real shame, because if you're talking about who probably one of the best character actors to play the Doctor, you would say Peter Capaldi. It's just a shame that the script let him down, but the fact that he was able to bring those scripts up says a lot about him as an actor.
I think that's the problem. I think even Capaldi now would have trouble with the season we've just had and what's coming up next. I bet.
Gosh, yeah.
You imagine Capaldi crying every episode.
Yeah.
If you had somebody in like Capaldi or something like that, or even Anur and Bernard or anybody in there, those scripts would not have happened.
Yeah.
Not in the way they did. He would have pushed the agenda slightly, because he did with the Star Beast with Tennant, who's on board with all that nonsense we know anyway.
Yeah.
But I think they would have had to raise their bar if it had been a more, Shooty, but a more experienced, a more powerful actor, or a more respected actor, not an unknown, which could be the other reason they went for Gatwa. Raymond Williams is saying Connor Swindles. That's one of the new names, of course, that's around like now. Yeah, true.
Is that some kind of scam on the phone or something? What was that? Connor Swindle sounds like some kind of con or something, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's around though. We talked about him a few weeks ago briefly on Headlines. Domgo said Jodie Whittaker played the Doctor as Peggy from Heidi High, and Marie UK said Eddie Redmayne was always talked about. Yeah, he's done it now, hasn't he?
Yeah. His
performance in the Fantastic Beasts films were very Doctor-like.
Very Doctor-like, definitely. Yeah.
He even had the look.
Do you guys think, we talk about, RTD copying, and I remember when I've heard RTD come back, I was like, if you really understand where the show is at, I would go and get someone like Stephen Graham, a serious actor who is going to basically, the normies will be like, just tune in because he's a great actor, and it'll be interesting to see him try and play someone like the Doctor. Like Christopher Eccleston was a very, very, everyone knew he was he's a serious actor. He wasn't known for comedy. He was, a proper Shakespearean actor. I would have gone for someone like him to kick off RTD2, because I think it would have said, Doctor Who's back to being serious. Obviously didn't do that, but no. I would say my second choice would be Stephen Graham, just because I'd be very interested to see how he would play it.
You need to watch Adolescence if anyone saw that with Stephen Graham that's come out the past few weeks. Phenomenal.
Is it? Yeah, I've heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's typical that it's been all about a certain." I'm going to say it. Gosh, we'll probably get clans for this, but it's about white people. They wouldn't dare do it about anybody else, and therefore they're calling it racist.
It's phenomenal.
I don't fancy it. It's too heavy. Don't fancy it. Have to be honest. Mudcrap is saying to us, Deep Breath would have been better if they actually let the Doctor be the central character rather than those three comic relief prats. Yeah, no, I want to talk about that. What they called the Paternoster Gang, another low. Another low for me in a series of lows over 20 years. What were those three about? Taking the pee out of the Sontarans, taking the pee out of the Silurians, a lesbian lizard as well. What are these people doing? I mean, can you see the patterns emerging?
Yeah,
actually, from the Matt Smith era onwards, they get so embroiled with bandwagons and making themselves look inclusive and diverse and wonderful and tolerant. The show starts to suffer. I just think absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that and the Sontaran as well. Oh, come on!
Didn't they get into trouble with the? This is bizarre. There's a lesbian kiss in that episode, and but the bizarre thing about it is the fact that it's a lizard kissing a human. That's repulsive enough, surely, without any other connotation. But they got complaints about it, which is like
they did. Yeah. But again, the complaints were coming from parents who were then labelled, "Oh, they're right wing," because they're not going to be. Yeah. It's nothing to do with that. It's to do with the fact that Doctor Who is a family drama show, and all that nonsense, all that connotation, all the sexual, it shouldn't be there, especially when you're implying a relationship between a human being and a walking lizard. I mean, this is not. Yeah. What were they doing? I mean, there are real parts of this series from the middle of Matt Smith onwards, and the River Song thing. Sorry, Kirsty, but I was starting to get cringeworthily embarrassing. The cheeks of my bum were drawing together. It was so embarrassing. You know?
Yeah, she's got a sonic trail now, hasn't she? I think that's what she had, or something.
No
like
idea.
that. Yeah.
No idea.
It's not taking. I think what your point, JT, is it stopped taking itself seriously, and it started basically doing silly things and being very childish. And I think that just like again, I said, compared to the previous 5 years, even Moffat first season, he had to take it seriously because you're riding off the coattails of David Tennant. So he had to play it safe and stick to what he is. The minute he established that first season, he wanted to do silly. I mean, what's the comic relief special he did in the 90s called? I can't remember.
Curse of the Fatal Death. Yeah.
I mean, that probably gave you exactly what.
Well, if you watch it back, some of the lines that are in that are in the series.
Are in the series,
yes.
Yeah. And the thing is, you recognize it when you saw the Curse of Fatal Death all those years ago. You recognize them when the lines come up in the shows. You go, "Oh, come on, please!" You know, it's just taking it all from. It's just sloppy, lazy writing in my. But that Curse of Fatal Death thing again, that was just like Dimensions in Time for me, just a piss take of the show.
I'll not have a word said against Dimensions in Time. I'm saying that now. Okay, so. I'll see you in the pub later, JT, for a discussion about it.
Oh, the stories I've got, and you're never going to hear them. Welcome to Whose Views, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching us. This is part of our series marking 20 years of the Reboot Who, which celebrates its 20th anniversary actually next week. And we thought we'd just acknowledge the fact that because there have been some highs. This show is basically turning into all the lows, but there have been some highs. I would say the highs for me have been this fella, this fella, this fella,
absolutely.
Can I say Tennant for RTD1? I'm just going to put my hand up and say, whatever. I know it's hard. It's hard given what's happened to try and be objective about.
Go ahead,
But I mean, if you're talking about the Doctor that basically everyone remembers in New Who, I've even got friends, some I know that are in the chat watching, that basically left after David Tennant. He was that popular. He was the Tom Baker of the new.
How very dare you get in that corner?
I'm not saying in terms of the quality, JT, but in terms of how popular he was at the time.
Yeah. He had these moments, didn't he? He had these moments. If you can divorce him from the person he is now and go back to when he was the Doctor originally, you can give him a bit of leeway, a little bit, can't you?
Yeah, I think. Look, was he a little bit too human at times? You could argue. Yes, but it was still very much the Doctor. And when David Tennant could really push his acting, like in The Waters of Mars, right. He's a great actor, and there was some great, and he had probably the most consistent stories in New Who as well. That obviously helped him in terms of his Doctor.
Totally.
The most iconic monsters, the Weeping Angel, started with him. Vata Narada, the Ood, etc. So it would be a shame not to highlight Tennant. But Tennant a long time ago.
You see, I mean, I couldn't get used to Tennant at all. It was only until his last series with Donna that I saw what he was doing with it, and I like series 4. Series 2 and 3 plod for me. I just think, but all I see is a version of Tom and John.
Yeah, definitely Tom. Yeah.
There's a lot of. I mean, Tennant was going on a couple of years or later about how Davison was his Doctor and stuff in that time crash thing.
Yeah.
No, it was Tom, because you can see it in the performance. There's an awful lot of elements of that, and I saw that in 4. I think it helps that he gets a companion that's not doting and lovey-dovey with him, to be quite honest, because I think that brings out a stronger acting, a stronger character.
Yeah. I mean, Planet of the Ood is a particular favourite of mine because there's some great emotion in that when Donna's, upset by what they do to the Ood, to slaves, etc. And that's some great moments in that, and the fires of Pompeii prior to that as well. Superb, really good.
Yeah, but it's again for me. The thing is about that is that they are Donna's episodes because it shows the alienness of the Doctor, and that's where I think Tennant comes through, because he's quietly standing back his Doctor in that, isn't he? Because he's an alien.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so good, isn't it? Because he is an alien, But...
But it's how to show the companion ruling the roost in a different way, because as a human, you gravitate towards Donna, and in a sense, that's what the companion's role is, and you feel Donna's emotion and her anger over these two situations she's in back to back, more or less, because the episodes are back to back, aren't they? It's a shame. Lex, thank you again for your super chat. Husbands of River Song is the only thing I didn't like about it, is that how many husbands, and she's still married to the Doctor, which I thought was very strange.
It's called bigamy.
Are they married though? Are they? They're not married. Not you know. It's just a line that's thrown out there just to say, you know, so that it fit the narrative that Moffat set up. Not like they actually went into like a church and got married, is it really?
The fact, Amelia, that he even went down that route, the Doctor.
Yeah, the Doctor should. Yeah, I know what you mean, JT. It rubs you up the wrong way, doesn't it?
So does this. Dalek Lives Matter saying Missy was good too. No, as much as I love Michelle, who's a cracking actor, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. She was robbed. You do not give an actor like Michelle an old hat character. When she was announced back in the day as the Guardian of the Nethersphere, I was excited. I thought, we've got Michelle in Doctor Who, and she's playing this cracking looking character with a mysterious title. This is going to be the Guardian of the Nethersphere. How fantastic. I think it would have just been a lot better if she was the Guardian of the Nethersphere, and she was never, ever. And that's when I knew, that Saturday night, when she turned around and the character says, I'm the Master, that's when I knew that the female Doctor was on the way.
She's like an evil Mary Poppins, isn't she? That's the thing, and that would work on its own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I just thought, here she comes. I remember saying to a mate of mine I was watching with the time, oh, here she comes. She's on the way. After Capaldi, it's going to be a woman, and how right I was. And I always said it would flop, and how right I was. Tennant stayed on too long, says Enspiel. Paul Rose saying, I love Tennant until he woke. Most did. That's why I had problems. With him now. Marie UK saying you let fame go to his head, Kirsty.
Yeah, RTD1, I can separate the art from the artist. And I think,
have to try, don't you? Yeah.
RTD2, with what they did for the 60th, that's unforgivable with the pair of them. It was a big middle finger to us.
Totally. Yeah.
Personally, what he could have just done 1 to 4. I still remember watching it live when he was winning his NTA and he was on stage and it was the interval for Hamlet and he goes like, oh, I'm leaving. They didn't need to do that Easter and Christmas special malarkey. I think maybe just one and done. He regenerates as an Easter special and that's it. We didn't need that dragged on 3 specials. But yeah, he definitely am one for separating art from the artist. RTD1, that's fine. RTD2,
doesn't count, does it? And as I say, what a waste of a life.
Yeah.
Al, nice to see you. Welcome to His Views. True, I grew up with him. David Tennant, he's my favorite. I appreciate the originals as well. Okay, Yokai 63, The Curse of Fatal Death was the best thing Moffat ever wrote. Even as a silly comedy skit, it still resembled proper classic Who more than anything from the New Who era.
And he kept writing it as well. So
I remember years ago, before the show came back, in Doctor Who magazine, they did an article where they asked various writers, what would you do if the show was to come back? And in it was Moffat and RTD and Chibnall and Mark. I think Mark Gatiss was in there. I think also a lot of the New Who writers. I think Paul Cannell was in there. Gareth might have been in there as well. And it was Moffat's vision of a Doctor Who that I thought, oh, I don't like that version. I wasn't that keen on RTD's actually, but he didn't do the stuff he said in that article. If you can find it.
I remember that article very well, and it was interesting their different takes on how to do it. I must admit.
Isn't that the one with the Lego Doctors on it as well?
I think it might be, yeah.
So I think it's the one, I'll have to remember the number, but I think it's in the issue where it's Tom on the cover, who else? And it's in that where he's on that silly bicycle with the gramophone.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's in that one. But it's around
and
about
that's before
that
it came back, wasn't it? This is the
long before it came back, about 2 or 3 years before 2003.
Something like that,
Digby saying to us, I enjoyed Tennant's first film. It's just a shame he has turned around to be a massive blah blah blah. Craig Dunlop is saying, I agree with Emilio. I thought Tennant was excellent the first time around as the Doctor. It's a shame the way things have gone with him, but it's all his fault. I think it's more the fault of RTD, to be honest. Tennant was good, says Terrified Monk. Thank you. Edward is saying Tennant is overrated. He is now, and he's not that popular in Britain anymore either. No, I don't want to kick Emilio Mudcrab, but yeah, he's standing in the corner. It's fine.
Fine, don't worry.
Paul Stenterford. I always felt that Tennant was overrated. I feel that Eccleston, Smith, and Capaldi understood the part more. Came back in 2005, says Adrian Sherlock, and in 2017 it was already Lady Doctor announcement time. Donna propped Tennant up, says the Forbidden Man.
I am actually surprised they didn't try to bring a female Doctor in when they brought it back, just to give her that twist immediately, which I'm glad they didn't.
Do you know what? It wasn't even on their radar. And we
Well,
all know
there was a gay Doctor as well. Remember that? So, and then look what happened.
Even Stephen Moffat, I think when he left in 2017, he did an interview. He was doing like several interviews over his run from RTD1 to when he finished off with Capaldi, and he was saying it would have never worked. You know, you couldn't imagine a female Doctor in 2005. You couldn't really imagine a female Doctor even after Tennant. He was saying, in his words, the only time really, and then the only time you could really consider it as a possibility would have been when Matt Smith regenerated, because he felt the show was too young to at the time in 2005 to make that ballsy choice that you just said, Paul. In my opinion, it should never happen, but he was talking about it in terms of it was never going to be a thing in 2005. Doctor Who probably wouldn't have worked if you had done that.
Again, it showed where the BBC was at the time, because as we know, the story is that Chibnall was taken out by Piers Wenger and executives, or whoever they were, for dinner. He didn't particularly want it. I believe he's gone on record as saying he wasn't really that interested in doing Doctor Who, and he threw into the only way I would do this is if I could have a female Doctor, and they went, oh yeah, okay, that's cool, let's do that. Not realizing, of course, that, or did they realize that the fandom would be immediately split, and it would set the show back decades. Because as we know, this terrible era had so many issues and so many lows, including the Timeless Children art, which I still can't get my head around because it's absolute nonsense. I mean, this was the Virgin New Adventures coming to life, and badly, and it gave rise to all this utter nonsense, didn't it? Because of that Timeless Children thing, one of the lows that I think for me now is the way they have treated the character of the Doctor itself, because we had this. We had this.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to include in this, because it's the one that started off, this. And yes, in all this, I'm including this. Utter nonsense. Why? If it hadn't been for the birth of the alleged War Doctor, simply because they couldn't get Eccleston back and Moffat couldn't be bothered to rewrite his script to suit McGann, we wouldn't have had all these other shoehorned in regenerations of the Doctor, therefore messing up everything we know as fans about the Doctor. I can't be done with all that nonsense. I don't know about you. I think that's another low, unfortunately, all that stuff.
I think it is. I think John Hurt's brilliant as the War Doctor, but we didn't need him at all, really. And that's the problem. But I was going to say about Chibnall choosing a woman. Did the BBC call his bluff? Because he thought, if I say, let's make it a woman, they won't hire me. But they said, yes, whatever you want, because it's interesting that he would say that if he didn't want one, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's what I heard. That's what I heard it was. But I don't know. I heard it was all about that. But I don't want to let go about these other incarnations. I want to really get into this now, because it ties in with what a lot of people in the chat want to talk about with the Timeless Children. What a load of old poo is that? From what I can gather about it, why? So Moffat starts this off with the introduction of John Hurt as an unforeseen incarnation, just because he can't be bothered rewriting the script for a seen incarnation in Paul McGann. I mean, I've said this before. The whole thing about that is that he couldn't see Paul McGann's Doctor pressing the button. In his story, the Doctor doesn't press the button.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
Yeah.
You could have just brought back Paul McGann, and that would have been it. And it would have been a nice way to say to Paul McGann, thank you very much. You did your time. Cheers.
Well, I wish, even if they hadn't done that, they got Paul McGann to be the pre-title sequence of Day of the Doctor, instead of just being online like he was in his little mini episode, Night of the Doctor, because he was brilliant in that, But
the point is, Paul, I mean, that was supposed to be the 50th anniversary special. Paul McGann belongs more to the original era in a sense.
Yeah.
So that would have been a nice way to actually include, because he regenerated from Sylvester McCoy on screen.
Yeah,
So it would have been a nice
lovely
way
if he was in
to
it.
include the
Yeah.
proper Who's
Yeah.
right there. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think it would have, if you wanted Hurt, which they obviously did, I've said it before, he would have been a fantastic baddie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I actually would have been really interested to see a darker Dr. Paul McGann, because he's an amazing actor. He could certainly pull it off. So I feel like you know, if you were, then people could get into a debate of, wow, like, you know, look how much he changed from the, you know, the movie to then, like, you know, and you get your imagination going on about, you know, what's happened and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that was a real shame. And then when you go into the Timeless Children, JT, I mean, it just is someone coming in with a sledgehammer and basically just going right to the foundation of the house and basically just destroying it, and everything else crumbles around it. That's effectively what it is in a metaphorical sense in terms of the show. There's only one First Doctor, and that is William Hartnell. There are no Doctors before. Even the brain of Morbius is not. It's a throwaway joke kind of thing. Don't take it seriously kind of thing. You know, so that would just, for me, that is like, you know, someone committing murder and Chibnall should be locked up. Should be locked up in a prison confinement for the rest of his life, in my opinion, just for what he did.
I agree completely. I mean, the Timeless Child thing is absolutely nonsense. I mean, why build your entire era on a clip from Brain and Morbius? That is just really quite sad. Really,
because he was a sad fan.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I say that it's, from what you guys have told me and what others have told me about this whole Chibnall era, it was continuing where the Moffat thing was leaving off to an extent. It became the new adventures of the BBC books, because it became books for they were books by fans for fans. Some of them were really hard work because they were just so out of touch with Doctor Who. And then along comes Chibnall's era, which is out of touch with Doctor Who because all he can write is a fan novel.
And the bizarre thing is, the Timeless Child was found in some gateway somewhere by a female Time Lord who'd discovered, or got afraid that they weren't Time Lord, then discovered that the Timeless Child had regeneration energy, and the Time Lord experiments on the Timeless Child to find the power of regeneration, and that child is the Doctor. It's just bizarre.
But do you know what the worst thing is, Paul? The worst thing is he didn't even have the balls to finish off his own bloody story. Once he realised the fan reaction, it was like, oh, I'm just going to put this in the TARDIS console. We never hear about it again. I mean,
what's that? Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, there's a watch that contains all the memories of the Timeless Child. Yes. Yeah.
So basically, it holds all the memories of the Doctor's previous life between.
What's a load of old rubbish?
Well, even the fugitive Doctor arrives in the same way as Yana did in Utopia. It's that kind of the energies there and her watch, or kind of watch, with the alarm that's on the wall in the lighthouse, and it's the same idea that she's hidden as a human and then becomes the Doctor, which is just, you've rehashed that from the Master in Utopia. It's like
and then you have just some really illogical stuff, right? Like a lot of people have said in the chat, the Doctor destroyed Gallifrey, or you think he destroyed Gallifrey in 2005. They then bring Gallifrey back in the 50th anniversary, and then stupidly immediately decide to then have the Doctor be back on Gallifrey, and then just piss off again. And then the Master somehow managed to destroy all the Time Lords on his own, and then they turn into cyber
masters.
It's just terrible writing. It's awful. God. I mean, everyone can laugh at it. It's like a 5-year-old could do a better job, and it just doesn't even have any, good continuation with what came before either. It's just someone basically getting, if I could include my language, getting their dick out and having a piss all over, basically, in the middle of the street. That's exactly what it is.
That's fantastic imagery, Amelia. It says it all.
It is, but that's what it is. It literally that's someone just pissing all over Doctor Who and going, I'm just marking my territory, doing what I want. It's just, and for me, that's unforgivable. I can accept a bad story. That's fine. But what Chibnall did was the nail in the coffin.
We've got a comment here from the Jamie 9526. The Chibnall era had almost nothing in common with the novels, to be fair. Ripped bits, but no understanding, like when he ripped off Remembrance of the Daleks. That's not what I mean. The whole thing about the New Adventures novels and the BBC book novels, both ranges, because they both had 2 ranges each, of course, Past Doctor and Current Doctor. They were for fans, by fans. And they built this entire continuity of them on, which took them so much away from where the show left in 1989. There was no way, had the show continued in 1989, we would have been given the New Adventures, because John wouldn't have allowed it. He would have said, no, you're getting 4 stories a year. That's it. Make the most of it. You cannot spin off into this other stuff. And I don't think any successor would have allowed it, because the focus must have had to have stayed on the TV show. But in the Wilderness years, you got these New Adventures and Missing Adventures, and they took it. The whole point of it when they were launched in 1989, I seem to remember, 1990 rather, was, I remember the tagline being to take the TARDIS into territories unexplored that you can't possibly reach on television, or something like that, which included Hex, and all this nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just ridiculous. But when you look at the writers for it, Jamie 9526, most of them came into the reboot, and they started to treat the reboot, as far as I'm concerned, as the New Adventures. This is what we can do. We've got a slightly bigger budget. This is where we'll go. I mean, that's my opinion. That's how I look at it. So when I hear about this whole rewriting of the character just to justify the fact you've cast a woman, and you haven't got the balls, ironically, to say, well, this is why we've done it. They could have done it so many different ways. They could have actually made it science fiction, and they could have had an extremely powerful race. I'm going into fan mode now, but Jamie 9526, instead of just saying this is how regeneration works now, and it's always been able to do it, and we're recreating the character's backstory to say he was born a girl. No, he wasn't. But what they could have done is they had an extremely powerful race after the Capaldi Doctor for a whole season, finally getting him, putting him under a series of painful experiments and regenerating him and twisting his regeneration. It's science fiction. There's so much you can do rather than just saying, this is what we're going to do, and you've got to get on with it.
Can I ask a question here? Because those who have seen the era, there's a bit, is it the either the Timeless Children or the Cyberman episode, I can't remember which one, when there's a bit that goes to Ireland and have all the Irish character and all that. I never quite understood that. Can someone explain that to me? Yeah,
it was in the Cyberman episode.
Yeah, but that's meant to be an incarnation of the Doctor, isn't it? Yeah,
it was to do with that agency, right? In the Time Lord agency, I can't remember, like C something. But basically,
the divisions might be them. Yeah,
isn't the person who's been experimented on meant to be one of the Doctor's earlier incarnation, basically before Hartnell? If I understood it correctly.
But why is it said because Island part of the that's in the Matrix rather than actually in real life?
Yeah, it's kind of like a perception filter in case the Doctor could remember the past. Right. Yeah, that's what I took from it anyway.
Right. Okay. You didn't miss much, GT. I'm just saying that now.
It's very confusing and very stupid. And that's what I mean about this. This to me reminds me of those New Adventures where they went off into tangents, and I put the book down, thinking, "Oh, shut up!
Yeah,
shut up!" Absolute pretentious nonsense. Oh, look at me, aren't I clever? And who's going to give me now a book deal? And it happened for some of them, believe it or not. Sounds like they were making up as they went along, says Graham.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And Farsight saying to us, I always thought the curator was a very aged fourth Doctor. No, he wasn't, because he says in the line in the Day of the Doctor, you're going to revisit some of your own faces, which then gives RTD that escape route to bring back Tennant as the 14th because of that one line. Do you see how they all work together now?
Yeah.
These three who have ruled over the last 20 years work in their own little bubble.
I mean, Doctor's a crazy show, but that's like you've jumped the shark, isn't it? Really?
Yes, totally. Yeah, totally. Thanks for all your comments on this, everybody in the chat. It's good to see you all. Jamie 9526 again says to me, yep, too broad and deep. Some of them were really good, some were dross, but it was stuff you can only do in books. It doesn't work as screeners. I agree. Yeah, it's just a shame. This is what I'm worried about now with Doctor Who now, because it's alienated so many people. Paul Stenterford, in my view, the writing in New Who lacks the maturity and complexity of the classic series. I can't imagine the children of today being inspired by anything in the modern show. I know what you mean there, Paul, and I'm going to agree with you on that. I mean, how many youngsters have been attracted into Doctor Who now? Not many, I don't think. And the important thing, as we know from the guys from the Wilderness years, is that we were there supporting it off the air for all those years, ready for it to come back. Yes, okay, it took 15 years, but we were there. In that time, a lot of my generation had children, and they introduced their children via videos, DVDs, UK Gold. Thank God for UK Gold keeping it alive all those years. Some of you may have actually discovered it through UK Gold. And that's what built up the audience. It's not there now. And I reckon if any Who is going to involve children, I'm going to say this, it's proper Doctor Who 63 to 89, because they're bloody stories. And it's about a fella battling different monsters every 4 or 6 weeks. What's not to like? Do you know what I mean?
I think the difference, JT, between you guys is that Doctor Who, you know, at worst in the 80s, obviously had dropped its level of quality, and maybe a ref is what it needed, but it hadn't done what the new show had done in terms of destroying the law, basically rubbed everyone up the wrong way, switched the gender. So I think if you're thinking about our generation, Kirsty, myself and Miles, you know, if we're going to go and show our kids, you know, kind of a Doctor Who episode, I'm going to go and show them John, you know, start them off on Spearheads in Space. And I will show them maybe some of the new Who stuff, but I'm definitely not going to send them anything past Capaldi. You know, doesn't, I just wouldn't show them it. So I don't think it is going to be an appetite of our generation to bring it back, especially if the current climate in terms of woke and the way the world is going is still the same. For sure, like none of us are going to be advocating for Doctor Who coming back.
No.
Sorry, Emilio, just laughing at some of the comments I brought.
Yeah, there's some great comments tonight. It's fantastic. So thank you all for joining us for this show here. The Flux made little sense. The dog companion, the what? The dog companion, the Division Angels, and the units. I have no idea what these. So what was the Flux? I mean, that whole series was called Flux. So what was it?
Someone tell them, please.
I don't actually know. It's been quite a while.
I don't think we ever. It was a really terrible story. Basically, you got Chewbacca.
Carbonista, that was the dog's name.
Carbonista. I call him Chewbacca.
Chewbacca, right?
Yeah.
And then you got
with a broad Yorkshire accent as well, which is interesting. Yeah.
You got this flux energy that's destroying everything, and honestly, it's so hard to remember because it's such a load of shit. But yeah, it's just basically flux is like the word flux. It doesn't really mean anything.
It's like a toilet cleaner, doesn't it? To be honest. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Chewbacca and planets being destroyed. That's probably the best way to sum it up.
They did have one episode I liked in that was the War of the Sontarans, and they brought the Sontarans back again for that episode. And it was set during the Crimean War, so time was kind of muddled up a bit. And the Sontarans looked great in that. Certainly the uniforms they had almost like a Time Warrior style uniform. And the lead Sontaran was riding a horse at one point, which was really good, and some great battle sequences. But then they brought the Sontarans back later on, and they did worse with the later Sontaran than they did with Strax. It was awful. Remember the eating the chocolate, the hyper Sontaran? That was awful. Remember that?
Chocolate bars. Yeah.
Chocolate bars. Oh dear, that was bloody awful. Yeah.
You see,
I do agree the redesign was great, Paul. That was that was much better than the 2008 redesign. I agree. Yeah. It's really good.
I think we ended up with the blue design of the Sontarans in the first return, because they'd already done the Jadoon previously in black. And they looked like Sontarans, so that's why we went for the blue look, which was a bit too kind of not hard enough for Sontarans.
That look was wrong, wasn't it? They should be black. They should be silver and silver and black. Why they were in blue, I don't know.
And why they made them so little as well. I know that Pertwee says that they're brutish and short in the Time Warrior, but they're not dwarves, are they? They're not little people.
And they didn't look the same. Why can they never make them all look the same? Even in Classic Who, they forgot that they're all supposed to look the same. They're supposed to be a clone race, and there are always little differences.
And they're never made to make the mask look, since Lynx is the best looking Sontaran ever, and they've never managed to top that ever, you know?
No, they can't do. They didn't even get the colouring right on these ones. They look like potatoes.
Yeah.
I can't comment about the Chibnall ones. Paul Stenterford saying, trying to suggest that William Hartnell was not the first Doctor was, in my opinion, the worst decision in New Who. It just comes across as nasty and total disrespectful to Mr. Hartnell and his family. The only reason he's done that, the only reason he tried to do that is simply to say, to people like me who were saying the Doctor cannot regenerate into a female form because he never was. He was a little boy on Gallifrey as established in the original series. And it was, oh, well, that doesn't count because Hartnell wasn't the first one and there were others before him and he was born a little girl. He did it out of spite. Yeah. Nothing to do with being creative or anything like that. He did it because he saw those comments and thought, I'm running this show and I say he can, and I'm going to prove it to you by recreating the entire backstory. And it didn't work, did it? It didn't work. The backlash was massive and really showed Doctor Who in such a bad light. Really, really did. You know,
you shouldn't try and ever answer what Doctor Who. Don't ever should the Doctor should never have an origin story. Yeah. And I think Andrew Cartmel said this in an interview when he was talking about it, in the sense that even if you could make the argument that Chibnall did it because he wanted to create more mystery with the Doctor, because lots have been revealed about the Time Lords, etc., and Gallifrey. That is definitely not the way to do it. That's not how you create more mystery. Actually, you completely demystified the Doctor. You basically explained the origin story. The only thing is we don't know what portal or planet, whatever race they come from. Yeah. That's it.
I wish they'd actually just decided that character was the Master instead, and that would be just to get rid of it, and it's not the Doctor at all, and that sorts that problem out. You know what I mean? But,
yeah.
The whole thing about this Timeless Children thing now is it has marked the current Doctor Who as well. Julianne is saying, to his definition from TARDIS Wiki, the flux appears to have many similarities to the theory of false vacuum decay, which describes an event which would erase the laws of nature completely. And yet, is it mentioned today? I don't. It shouldn't be either, because no one was watching it. But
it was mentioned in the second special, wasn't it? With
David and Donna mentioned
that, and the giggle as well, didn't they? So,
did it?
Yeah.
See, that went over my head. But as somebody that didn't watch the Chibnall era and then was coming back for the RTD second one with an open mind and hoping it was going to be great, to find that he's actually taken that storyline on and moved on with it, I find quite alienating, as I mentioned on our review shows. I don't understand what's going on. So you're mentioning that there was a reference to it, and I haven't taken that in. Can you imagine if you were a not we? If you can imagine you're a member of the British public, it's no wonder the viewing figures have gone down every week.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that New Who has created, and I think I've said this before, New Who has ironically created more baggage than the show had originally in 1989 when it came off the air.
Yeah.
I am surprised with the Radio Times covers. We never got a Fugitive Doctor cover.
Oh, don't.
I don't want one, but I'm surprised they didn't do that just to ram it down your throat even further.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but they would have to do them all. I mean, I'll show those pictures again. It did start with the War Doctor, which gave way to the fact that you can now bring in this one here, whatever she was called. We had this one coming in as well, which is a future incarnation of the Doctor who calls himself the Curator. And then, of course, the old face thing again with this one. Utter nonsense. Honestly, what a waste of time.
I agree with you, JT. Why they didn't just have Donna and the 10th Doctor from season 4 made it a special adventure for the anniversary, and then they could pick up with a new Doctor later on down the line,
Yeah. I mean, I think one of you said tonight, didn't you? You could actually also introduce Shooty in the last few minutes of the episode 3, or the last 10-15 minutes, where the 10th Doctor runs into his future self with Millie in tow, maybe, or whatever. And then you're back on Christmas. I mean, this is us as fans saying we can do things, but we can. And
they do it like Eccleston, start fresh, exactly that kind of thing. Yeah.
And this is the whole thing, because at the moment, for the last 20 years, you've had fans running the show. So why should they get to say what they want and and the rest of us can't? Because at the moment, there's millions more of us around the world that can do a better job.
Yeah. But they also didn't explain anything either. Going back to the 60th anniversary, they didn't explain anything of why David's face came back again. All this rubbish about us because he's tired, and what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And why did the TARDIS interior change? Why did it from Jodie's to this new one? Why did it just change by itself? And as Sonic,
actually, in the classic series, it could do that. There was a bit where the Doctor takes Leela back to the original control room and says, "It's been redecorating. I don't like the color." Same color it's always been, basically. But the biggest thing for me is, Miles, why did the Doctor's clothes regenerate with him?
It's not mentioned.
Yeah,
because that surely was a plot thread that an interference
Well, I thought the toy maker was responsible for all that, and that would be
That's what
explained
I
in the
thought.
last one. Yeah, but it wasn't. Yeah.
No, yeah. I thought it was all going to sort of go into that. Yeah.
But we
Do
do
you
know.
know-
Go on, Emilio.
Somebody put on Twitter, which I found quite funny. They said, if you watch the first 30 seconds of David Tennant and Darby, does his doctor look tired? He looked quite jolly and happy, and
He seems happy. Yeah. Yeah, he's tired apparently.
He's tired. Yeah.
It's just I don't understand what they're all doing.
He's just regenerated. How knackered can he be? You know.
Yeah. Farsight is saying to you all, if the timeless child was correct, the Doctor never needed a new regeneration cycle. Very good point. Rewriting it and forgetting all these elements here. That regeneration cycle, of course, was brought in the 70s. 12. You know, it was limited to 12. We always knew at some point. But again, if he hadn't included the War Doctor, he wouldn't have been on his last incarnation with Matt Smith.
That's why he wanted to do that, wasn't it? So he could be the producer that makes it the other cycle, wasn't he? And change
it came all together for him, wasn't it? Oh, I've got to create a new because I can't be bothered rewriting my story because Eccleston won't do it. I'm going to do this version here and say it's a previous incarnation we've never seen before. Oh, and by the way, that pushes it up here. Oh, and I'm writing that series.
Yeah.
But
we don't count. Did we count the regeneration from the hand? I don't know if we counted that one, did we? Yeah.
No, Moffat said he didn't, did he? Just so that he could say.
Yeah.
But now onto Chibnall.
Well, they counted the David Tennant fake regeneration, didn't they? In Journey's End, that counted in the time of the.
I think he did, didn't he? I think he
said, don't you remember? The other me, the one I had vanity issues at the time, as he says.
Yeah. I remember that.
Again, you technically didn't need to count that. They could have easily not counted it.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. They've made it so confusing and convoluted. And that's the other thing that makes me think about this reboot in the last few years, especially they've gone so far away from the original Doctor Who. It's become the RTD Moffat Chibnall Doctor Who, which has alienated millions of people. So well done, fellas. Congratulations. Really good work. JT says, Paul Rose, they don't care anymore. Creating a second TARDIS by hitting it with a hammer tells you everything you need to know. That was another low point. Yeah, I always know about when things are low for me in this version, when I get embarrassed, and I've been embarrassed a lot.
Do you think that's a precautionary thing to do for RTD so that if this era, like it has, it's failed, they can just revert to Tennant again and get the TARDIS go back together again and Tennant. So they just go back to where they started. Yeah.
Yeah, I truly believe that, Paul.
Yeah. Thanks, Miles.
Well, they don't have any confidence in they don't have any they've not had confidence in Doctor Who in terms the people that run it don't actually see the gold mine that Doctor Who is. No, I'm saying in terms of not going to make them money, but in terms of if you just focus in the right place, Doctor, you can just focus on making the seed of I don't know, City of Death, or go and just focus on making great episodes. It's got a great format. It's got everything you want. It's an amazing show to write for. But they don't have any confidence in it.
So that's another thing that I've heard season 2 might explain it though. For season 1, we never, again, with Russell T Davis's lazy writing, we never got an explanation properly why Ruby was so special. Because why would Sutek be afraid of someone who's an ordinary human being when he's got amazing powers, etc., etc.? She turns out to be an ordinary person who was left behind by her mother. She was abandoned.
Yeah, she can make it snow too.
Yeah, exactly. And that was never explained either.
No,
it can snow in the TARDIS. It can snow in the queue. Incredible.
Yeah, it's because we made it. We all thought about it.
That's it. Yeah, we're really thick. That's the problem.
Yeah, we all thought she was special, so that made her special.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Certainly someone special, that's for sure.
Was that snow thing explained?
No, it wasn't. So I had a rumor, a whisper that they may explain it in season 2, but I'm not holding my breath.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, by the way. We are in the middle of our season marking 20 years of Reboot Who. Can you tell? Let's see. Let's have a look at what's coming next. Well, where else are we going to go as part of this season? Yes, next week, the 20th anniversary of this itself, Wednesday, the 26th March, live here on the channel at 8 o'clock. We are, of course, going to be reviewing the one that kicked it all off. Back to 2005 we go, 7 p.m. It's Rose. So we'll be here live at 8 on the 26th of March, looking at Rose and giving our review of that. So come and join us with that. You've got a week to go and watch it and relive it if you haven't already. You can find it obviously on the DVDs. You can find it on your iPlayer. You can find it wherever you need to go find it. But there you go. You can go and join us as we look at Rose. I'm sure you've all got a lot to say about it. 20 years old next week, everybody. Great to see everybody in the chat tonight. Thank you so much for being with us here. Shelley Ingle has just joined us. Hello, Shelley. Nice to see you. Craig, Rose, a man by any other name. Not that Rose, Billy Piper Rose. That's what we're talking about. The first one, yes. So I'm going to ask you all the question now, actually, everybody, because it is called after the name of the show. I'm going to ask the panel, and I'm going to ask you all in the chat to start putting this in the chat now. Yes or no? That's all we want. We did show you the poll results from at the beginning of the show. I'm going to show that to you now. We did ask the question as part of this particular show on our poll on the channel here over the last week. 146 votes we had as well to the answering the question, is it time to call it a day now? The ayes had it with 83% saying yes and 17% saying no out of 164 votes. 146 votes, sorry. There's a lot of comments on there as well, which I'm going to be saving for another show. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe. But I'm going to ask the panel now. I'm going to ask you guys in the chat to start putting it in now. Very simply to you in the chat, yes or no. As I start with Miles, is it time to call it a day?
Yes.
Okay. Emilio, is it time to call it a day?
Yes.
Kirst?
Yes, see, we, yeah, nay, any other language, yes.
She's so posh, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Paul?
It's sad to say, but yes.
Overwhelming
I've had
yeses
enough.
there. Yeah, overwhelming there from the panel. Yes, it is. For all the reasons you've been saying tonight, then, I think.
Yeah.
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 It has to go.
Yeah. Maybe not forever. Maybe not forever, but it really depends on the. For me, it depends on the landscape of TV, and it depends on who. It depends on who's going to be running it. So I think Doctor Who should always be on the table to come back because it's such a great show with such a great concept. That if it's done right, it doesn't matter what the crap that we've been given recently. I would still sit down and watch it.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to be honest here and say you'll all know because I've said yes. I think it is time to go. I think it's well overdue. But for me, the series went with Capaldi. It's as simple as that. I haven't watched the Chibnall era. Never will. I don't recognize this crap that RTD's been presenting over the last year, and I certainly don't think I'm going to recognize the next one. But having said that, join us for our reviews. We've got more news coming about that in the next couple of weeks about what the format will be, etc., because you never know. He might surprise us.
Don't it?
Yeah. Let's have a look and see what they're all saying in the chat. Yes or no? Sadeko 24. Yes. Hello to Rory and Cheryl and friends too. Nice to see you. Hope your test went well. Julianne. Yes. Stephen Braddock saying to us here, great show tonight, everyone. Funny how New Who starts so well and goes downhill as it goes on. The parallels to the original series are spooky, except I think the new version is worse because we all loved it still as fans back in '89. We were desperate to keep it, and now we're all turning around saying we don't want it. It's an embarrassment. Get rid of it. And the BBC want to keep it. John is saying yes, it needs to go. Mark Milford, yes. Wow. Philip Tossini, yes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. John Roberts, yes. Killbot, Killbot, Kill, yes. Marie UK, yes. Bill Lowry, yes. Mark Greaves, yes. Sadeko again, yes. Dongo, yes. Paul Stenterford, yes. Paddy NI, nice to see you, yes. Adrian, yes, unless they hire a professional genius to run it, I'm available. PTA, yes. Rory is saying, Rory and Cheryl, yes. Graham is also saying what I said. It went for me 5 years ago. Dalek Lives Matter, yes and no. That's sitting on the fence. Well done. Deadpool 2, yes. Paul Rose, yes, but only for a few years. The Jamie 9526, yes. Sadly, yes. Although I reckon a decent writer could at least put in a better place first. Hell yes, says El Enspiel. Hell yes, says he. Problem being get in the bin, RTD. I'll take that as a yes. Lex Kane saying yes, but it needs 15 to 20 years break. Wow. If it's off, I'm telling you now, if it stays off for that long, it will never come back.
Yeah, it's too
It has
long.
to be different this time around because there won't be enough of us to support anything coming back. 5 years, yes, possibly. If it's done right, if we're excited about it. 15 to 20, it won't happen, Lex. I'm sure it won't. Stephen Braddock, yes. Oh God, yes. Graham, yes. If it's allowed to continue in this vein, it will do irreparable damage to the show. Bear in mind that the series coming up.
It already has, in my opinion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The series coming up was written, produced at the same time as Series 1. It's not going to be that different. Peter Davis saying, I don't care. that sums it up. That sums up the majority of millions, doesn't it? Don't care. Adrian Sherlock, it's already over. It's ended itself. What's this from Arthur? Love you folks, but woe is me. It's not the new Doctor Who, season 3. I don't think there's going to be a season 2 for quite a while. Douglas Smith, I had Doug. Sadly, yes. What else we got? Oh, Jason saying, oh my goodness, yes. We, ja, and yes. Craig Dunn, yes, but it's a shame. I'll need to find something else to sharpen my teeth on. It needs a complete Who over, says Steve Black. So what you did there. Oh my goodness. There's a lot of you here. Amazing. And you're all saying, yeah. Oh, hang on. Chris Chatfield, hello. Thank you. No, I hate going with the majority like sheep in fear of backlash. You lot, it's going through a phase. It will pass and get better. Where's your faith? Chris, the faith has been pummeled into the toilet and flushed because of how they've treated the show and the character. As we've proved on this show as well, Chris, the British public are not behind this show anymore. It needs a complete revamp. And I think the only way it's going to do that is by coming off for a few years' time. And they've got to get it right with a proper doctor, proper writing, get rid of the showrunner and bring back a bloody producer and a script editor, a production team, nice production values, not the billions that they want it for. So, yeah, but Chris, thank you for your point. I'm glad you're enjoying it, but there is no faith. I do not have any faith. And just because I'm a fan of the show, it doesn't mean that I can't criticize the bloody thing. It's rubbish. Get it off. And that creature got him playing the creature they've known now saying it's the Doctor. Honey, queer, homophobic slur. No, that's not the Doctor.
Yeah,
not the Doctor.
We sat through Chibnall and this, so it's like we've had enough. Really, that's it. We've tried to get so many chances to make it work. You know what I mean? And it's just been absolute rubbish. Yeah.
I can say what Miles said at the beginning is I think the last bit of potential faith or hope died in the Derby, basically. You know, people had already gone through enough with the Timeless Children and the Chibnall era and changing the Doctor gender. Yeah. It was almost like Last Chance Saloon, really. So my faith anyway died. Yeah, literally after 5 minutes in that episode.
That's interesting on the Radio Times cover, isn't it? Something with the Last Chance Saloon for New Who when it started back, and now it's exactly where it was back in '89. In fact, much worse.
The other thing about that, Chris, as well, is that we're not sheep at all, as some of in the chat are pointing out there. We're not sheep. We have an opinion. We have a right to opinion, and the fact is, as fans, we don't like the bastardization of our favorite show and what they've done to it to appeal to a minority. So I would say if there's any sheep out there, it's the bandwagon lot that are listening to what the TQ cult and its obsessive nonsense is preaching through our favorite science fiction family drama. You know, I would say it's the other way. So there's two sides there, Chris, but you can't call us sheep. We are entitled to that opinion. If you like it, fantastic. But I prepare yourself for a shock if I were you. Paul Rose is saying to us here, look, they've had 3 shots. One more chance after a few years is all they've got left. If it doesn't come back strong next time, it's dead forever. And that's why I'm saying as well, it's a case of you can't allow it to be off for 15 years or more. It's got to be done within
5.
I'd say, well, I don't think even that. I think it's got to be done within 7 at least. Because if you think about it, you've got to have a couple of years off. You've got to find people that can do it. They've got to have at least a year planning. A year to write, a year to produce, a year to argue over money, a year to make sure that show business politics aren't around. You're looking at 7 years, maybe even 10. And even then, that's going to be dangerous.
Yeah.
I think most importantly, you need the people that are running it to understand what actually worked well, what worked really well with Classic Who, what worked well with New Who, what didn't work well, and actually understand what the problems of why Doctor Who ended up where it is today. I think most importantly, you need someone to understand that. Clearly, RTD did not understand that when he came back. Otherwise, he wouldn't have mentioned the flux. He wouldn't be giving Chibnall his due. He would have retconned. A right writer would have gone, yeah, sorry, Jodie, I'm retconning this. Unfortunately, not to be cruel, but I'm doing what's best for the show. And that's really what we need.
As I've often said as well, you don't need to do it as bluntly as that. You just ignore it and you never reference it because the public don't care. And let the fans argue and squabble. Who cares? Go and squabble and argue. Oh, which number is this? Don't reference it. Don't make any allusion to it. Don't show it in the flashbacks. That's the nicest, easiest way to do it. In fact, don't even do flashbacks for a few years. That's the mess. And as I say now, it was so easy for them in 96 and then again in 2003 into 2004 to bring Doctor Who back because it didn't have baggage. This version now does. And any new production team that's going to come on has a tough job. Which bits do we keep? Do we honor the fact that there's been 600 of them? It's a very tough decision and people are going to be upset whichever way it goes. Thank you everyone for being with us here. Robert Payne saying to us here, look, it wouldn't make sense to keep going. There have been multiple operation failures, as the TARDIS screen said to Jodie post Regeneration. Did it? I don't know. Passes me by, Robert, but thank you for that. Rory and Cheryl, with the BBC cancelling Scottish soap River City, can the 10 million cost saved by that go to Doctor Who? Yesterday, for those of you that don't know, the BBC announced that River City has been axed after, well, when did it start? The 90s?
20 years, apparently, yeah.
20 years. Isn't that strange? Good, I say, because I went for an audition for them years ago and they told me I was too English for the English part I was bloody reading for. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's typical, yeah.
Oh, look at that chip on my shoulder.
I've met those casting directors as well. They're interesting, yeah.
Yeah. Still, at least I'm not bitter. Anyway, so good, I say on that one. Good. What else? Thank you very much. Here's Daz22 saying to us as well, 5 to 7 year hiatus, then bringing a new inspired team with an understanding and appreciation for the lore of the classics, but perhaps some exciting elements from New Who. It's not impossible to do it. It's not impossible, but it's an absolute it will be a nightmare for them because they've got all this baggage coming into the series. But I think they will need at least 2 years planning myself. It's not easy making television today. And with audiences the way they are and all the demands you get from people trying to make money out of the thing, it's not easy. But I would insist, if it was me, at least 2 years to plan the format of the season, the writers of the season, clearing all the monsters I wanted to use. Breaking news, it would be the Daleks and Cybermen only. Finding the Doctor. Breaking news, it would be a male. Finding the companion, it would be a female. Designs, script approvals, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, and a female not from modern day, because that has been overdone.
Done to death, yeah.
Exactly. Give me a Leela, please, or somebody like that. That'd be interesting.
Oh, listen, what a show that's been, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here on Who's Views tonight for this our show here, the highs and lows of 20 years of Reboot Doctor Who. But is it time to call it a day? The panel and you watching us have resoundingly said through our poll and through the chat tonight, yes, it is time to call it a day. Has the BBC actually done that? We'll know very, very soon. Stay with us here on the channel. Make sure you're subscribed and keep an eye on headlines as well as all our other shows, because as soon as they drop a headline, we'll be here to talk about it. I am expecting something coming on as soon as these 8 episodes of this next series are done, guys, I have to say. But all we know is BBC Studios want to keep it. The majority of the fan base around the world don't. The British public certainly don't care. Let's have a look at those ratings when they start coming in, when we start reviewing Series 2. More about that coming up in the next week. To Miles, to Emilio, to Kirsty, lady of the chat herself, and to Paul, who is very conveniently saying there, Doctor, I let you go. That's exactly what we're doing tonight here on Who's Views. Our next scheduled show will be at the weekend, so make sure you're here with us as well. You can find us on Instagram with Who's Views. You can find us on Facebook on Who's Views as well. Come and have a chat with us on there. For any comments, you can get in touch as usual, who'sviews1@gmail.com. Please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, put your comments down there, share, all of the usual stuff. If you've subscribed to the channel before, please make sure you're still subscribed. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and come and join us. Lots coming. And join us again next week for our review of Rose. I think that's going to be interesting after tonight. Can't wait. So from all of us on the panel, take care of yourself. To the panel, hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. Great discussion, guys. Well done, everybody. Absolutely
It's been great fun. Thank
Really
you.
enjoyed it. Thank you.
And we'll see you all very soon here on the channel. Ta-ra, everyone. Good night.
Good, everyone. Bye-bye.